Hello, everyone. Welcome to Gen Talks. Hold up, what? Gen Talks? This is not the Amended Project? Are we in the wrong class again? Why can't she just make up her mind already? This is why I'm on TikTok all day. She's just so confusing. Please. We even taught her how to write. Why is she even here? Okay. Look, I understand, and I'm sorry for the confusion. I promise you are in the right class. But I changed the name back because, hey, changes happen from time to time. And also, what's in a name? Gen Talks fits more of what we are talking about here. And without Jersey Gem with one end coming in, then what are we doing? Am I right? Yes, no, maybe so. No. Well, in my humble opinion, I think I'm right. So, anyway, also, Judge Jen was not too pleased about the name change. And we don't want to make her angry. She's a sassy one. They all are. Anyway, actually, she's kind of sitting me too right now. She's right next to me. So, just she's busy. Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, back to that intro. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Gen Talks. It's a podcast where we talk about mindset, listening to our intuition, trusting our gut, channeling our inner voice, our self awareness, love, relationships, emotions. We all have them. We just don't want to talk about them. I don't know. I try all the time, but nobody wants to talk. Well, what can you do? Anyway, we also talk about how to cope with the loss of a loved one and what those healthy coping mechanisms look like, the rules of fitness, and so much more. Now, if you're new here, my name is Jennifer, spelled with two N's, but I'm a Jen spelled with one N. I know it's a little complicated, but I like to keep it simple, and that's why it's, Jen with one N. If you're coming back because you want to learn more about how technology can interfere, then welcome back. Either way, I'm happy you are here. Now, my hope is that whatever is shared in these podcasts flip a switch in your mind and change the course of your path for the better. Because there have been moments in my life where someone had said something to me that completely caused me to change my perspective and how I think. And I hope what I'm about to share now in the future is a guiding light for you. First things first, if you are new to this class, during the first 7 episodes, the name of the podcast was called Gen Talks. And a few lovable guests, such as Jersey Jen with one N, Judge Den, oh my gosh, she's scaring me, and Zen Jen made their big debut on the show. But after much discussion with them all, we decided that Jen Talks Podcast is the name. And besides, Jersey Jen with one N would get riled up if she doesn't come on the show. We don't want that either, okay? And she just busted out on the show. Wow, she's coming in hot today. Here we are. Anyway, here we go. Also, at the end of each episode, there is a note bene section, which in Italian means note well, where we recap everything we talked about. So don't skip to that section to the podcast because I'm going to know. All right? Okay. You will also see in the caption section of the episode a list of songs listened to while writing and also a list of books mentioned throughout each episode. Something I want to share before we get started is a memory. One day, while I was working, I remember looking out the window and I literally thought to myself, there has to be more to life than this. And I felt that deep pain within my soul. For me personally, I loathe and can't stand complacency. It's where the soul goes to rot, and that's where death occurs. For me, I need to have a purpose as to why I'm doing what I'm doing and to be connected to it. I need those light bulbs to turn on mentally and be energized. It's a main part in how I choose to live my life. With this podcast, I'm connected to it because there's a purpose, and there's so much more to this than meets the eye, and it's all bigger than me. Now, I share this sentiment with you because maybe you feel the same way about your career or where you are in life, where something just doesn't sit right, or maybe you are spinning your wheels, are distracted, and know there is more you can do. You know you have the potential and have a purpose, and for some reason are not living it. You have these thoughts and ideas you want to act on but are not following through, where you feel stuck. And when you feel stuck, you're afraid because you don't know what to do or how to get started. I get it. I've been there before and struggled with the same thoughts. As mentioned, the first episode centered around how fear and perfection go hand in hand. I talk about how perfection causes fear because we feel the need to be perfect to actually accomplish our goals. But here is the deal. There is no such thing as perfection, and you are not going to arrive on the first day, the second day, and so forth. This is a journey, and it all takes time. Besides, perfection is a deterrent for you to not get started and creates a roadblock where you avoid focusing on those small steps and therefore drift further away because of the fear of it not being perfect the first time. But there's a whole lot more than meets the eye. Everyone has a purpose in life, but they need the time to actually develop it. It all takes time for us to get to where we need to be, but the key is not to rush it. Because if we do, we will just grab anything and think it's the right thing. And that cycle will continue and it actually repeats itself, which causes you to go around in the same circles or mountains, repeating the same pattern over and over and over again. And you are left wondering why you're not advancing or moving forward because there's very little patience when making a decision. And there tends to be a rush to the next thing and to the next thing, but wind up getting nowhere. We may think we are advancing, but are actually in constant repetition, meaning we are repeating the same patterns and are stuck in that. Now, there is no judgment. I'm just shedding light on these situations that become way too common. Where if we don't pause, take a breather, be still, recalibrate, we will keep repeating the same loops or cycles for as long as we both shall live, and can even pass that down to our children and for future generations to come. So every step in life matters. Everything you do in life matters. Don't think you're here to just sit in front of a computer all day. There's so much more. We are meant to bring forth light and positivity and pass that to others and live passion filled lives, creating and building people up that the people up that are around us. We are meant to be in movement and not stay stuck in the past or just settle because it's the easy way, but to be bold and daring and triumphant. So keep that in mind as we continue. And if you need to write it down, please feel free. Whatever helps you. As mentioned on the last episode where we talk about you are where your heart is, I mentioned that this episode would be about how technology interferes in more ways than one. Now, technology has its pros and cons, its benefits like everything else does. But as time goes by, it's becoming more prevalent in society where everything is linked to it. Take a look around, right? For example, it's in your watch, your smartphone, your TV, streaming services, self driving cars, GPS, Siri, social media, job applications, which use AI. You also have Chat GPT and so much more. Technology also normalizes a fast paced work environment where it creates the high demand for things to happen in an instant and pushes itself into everyday life, including personal lives and homes. But more on that later. It has become a distraction, a tool for escape, is an example for immediate gratification, and not its opposing friend, delayed gratification, which also interferes in love and relationships and impacts your mental, physical, and emotional health, which we will also dive into later on. So put your phones away. I don't want to see them out in class. You, sir, I'm talking to you. Miss, no phone now. Okay. And please use my personal favorite tools, which are the ancient pen and paper, to take notes and listen. All right. Now, technology comes in hand in all different parts of life. For example, communication. Let's say you're running late to meet a friend. You can call or text them to let them know, since it shows that you care and don't want your friend to worry. Technology has a lot of benefits, including it using for emergencies, you have texting, right? The smartphone, which can be used as a benefit, phone calls, computer software systems at advanced companies and businesses. You have the power of the internet, the ability to create websites, training videos, researching on YouTube if you're a visual learner, right? You can learn how to use Excel on YouTube. So helpful. I mean, can you imagine doing taxes or filing a return on a calculator and pen and paper alone? Oh my gosh. And every report or chart was handwritten? Whew, that's a lot of patience. Woof. Anyway, with technology, we have Spotify and different music streaming apps, cameras. I mean, there are advancements used in hospitals to help save lives, which is progress, where you can literally get results in minutes. Talk about healing. There are different types of therapies. The benefits of technology, including research, GPS, and finding stops along the way. You have Bluetooth connecting to Wi Fi, placing orders online where you can actually save time driving around and the amount of time needed for that. I mean, that's a lot of time. But hey, you know what? Where there's a will, there is a way. Even to this day, I use GPS when I'm walking. I do because I want to make sure I'm walking the right way and get to where I'm going. I don't like feeling lost, and no one likes that feeling. I kind of laugh at myself too when I put the GPS on, I'm walking. To me, it's funny. But hey, it helps. And do you remember the good old fashioned AOL chats where you can chat with your friends until midnight? Do you remember that? Oh, those are fun days. Such a simpler time. And we had Nintendo 64, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advanced, and those fun games. We had the Walkman, the CDs with the headphones. Oh, the 90s. A lot of nostalgia. But the point is that technology has its pros, advancements, and helps with growth. Can you imagine if every episode was written on paper instead or a typewriter instead of a laptop? It would take a longer time. And how would it be recorded? I don't know. Or let's say what you're focusing on at work didn't have the computer and those proper systems set in place. It would be different. And throughout each technological advancement, we adapted. We learned how to work with it and apply it to our lives. Sometimes it helps you to track things. Maybe you have a business where you're shipping an item to a customer. It helps with research, writing, creating videos, music to grow small businesses, promote and market, and so forth. There is a lot of creation when it comes to technology, advancements, and so forth. And although it is great for some things, it doesn't mean it's great for everything. Oh, yes, you have a question? Oh, gosh, go for it. What do you mean it's not good for everything? Whew. Oh, my gosh. The first question. I love it. Well, that's a great question. And thank you for listening because it is actually where we are heading. And you know what? I'm so proud of you because you're going to get one gold star. And you know what? I'm going to give you two. I'm making it two. I'll give you two gold stars. I'm so proud. Now I'm touched. Thank you for listening. Okay, I got to calm down here. So much to say. What, Judge? Don't look at me like that, okay? I'm talking here. So judgy today. Jeez. All right, fine. All right, well, back to your question, sir, on how technology is not good for everything. It creates this thought where we expect an immediate response, and we're taking the time to reflect and think about something isn't common. It's predominantly in the now. And if you don't have an answer right away, or if something isn't done in an instant, it creates fear and anxiety, insecurity, and more pressure to have an answer. Where where did that come from? I know in life there are deadlines we have to meet. I understand that. But the constant go, go, go pressure where everything is now, every response is now, it doesn't make sense to me. It's pressure based and fear focused. And no wonder why people don't pursue their goals or give up after a week. It's because there's this expectancy of something to happen now and in an instant. But is that realistic? No wonder after a first date people rush into things because it creates this now culture. As if everything doesn't happen in the time that we want it, then there is an issue. It leads us into this microwave or instant coffee mindset, where if something doesn't happen in 30 seconds, then something is completely wrong. And microwave mindset means it's rushed. In an instant, things are expected now, and the patience is lacking. Where people don't want to wait anymore. And not just at work, but all facets of life, including relationships, where they don't allow things to build up over time, where there isn't a solid foundation, where people don't want to take their time and will grab any opportunity as soon as possible. And their decision making process is made out of fear, anxiety, made in a rush without thinking things through, where they ignore listening to themselves on the inside and just rush. Now imagine you made a home cooked meal that took longer to make versus a microwaved meal or brewed coffee versus making instant coffee. Now there's no judgment. We're just using an example. What are the differences? Well, you have flavor, natural ingredients, patience, and time, which shows the best things in life are worth waiting for and not rushed. Which we're going to walk into our which actually we're going to walk into out into how technology plays a part in instant gratification versus delayed gratification. So we're going to get real, which is what we do on Gen Talk. So no surprises here because hey, I have to tell you like it is. That's my job. Now, before we dive into this portion, I'm going to give you two terms and definitions. So grab that pen and take your time writing them down. There's no rush. I don't rush anybody. Right now, let's pause. Okay, everyone's good. Papers, yep, pen and paper. An erasable pen. Oh, sir, great taste. You know, in math class, that comes in handy. You have very good taste. You're taking it back. You are taking it back. All right, here we go. I'm pumped. Now, the first term is immediate gratification. And according to the American Psychological Association, it means the meeting or satisfying of one's needs or wishes without delay. And I will repeat that. The definition of immediate gratification, according to the American Psychological Association, is that it means the meeting or satisfying of one's needs or wishes without delay. All right, you got it. Perfect. The second term is delayed gratification or delay of gratification. Now, according to Britannica, delayed gratification means the act of resisting an impulse to take an immediately available reward in the hope of obtaining a more valued reward in the future. The ability to delay gratification is essential to self regulation or self control. So, you see how both are polar opposites of each other? Now, one example of immediate gratification might be when you see a product come out and you have to be the first to buy it, no matter the price, or that desire, that want, and not need. Now, there is a difference between want and need, which we'll also go into, right? But the desire or the want overtakes you, and you purchase this product without thinking about it. A lot of things we have, we don't necessarily need. A lot of wants are sometimes pushed by societal pressures where we may give in easily so we can have a status, which is not humble. And where we think we arrived because of all the material things we have. But it shows dissatisfaction within yourself, greed, filling a void, lack of patience, and just because you have the ability to buy something when you want it means you arrived in the world in some sense. And sometimes people buy things out of the place, out of that place, maybe out of that place since they don't have their priorities set in place. Sorry, so much going on right here. And just because you have the money to spend doesn't mean it's being spent wisely. Now, instead of pouring money into your wants that don't last, how about pouring money into your needs that do last, like your goals and your future? Because although you may not see it, your future self will thank you. And please, I'm not saying don't pay your bills because we all need to do that. But what I'm saying is slow down. Ask yourself, is this a want or a need? Do I need to get this at this exact moment? Or can I wait? Will this add any value to my life? Because guess what? You can't take anything with you when you go. You just can't. Also, you can't take your car, your home, materials, or really anything with you. So take a deep breath, be in a calm state when making a decision, and don't rush. The same thought can be applied to when getting into a relationship. Take your time. When it comes to love, do not rush. And I repeat, and please write this one down too, do not rush. Do not get into something because you desire to be in a relationship right away. If you do, that means there's a void you are filling. Oh, Jen, but this person said this and he said that, and I think he's the one. And he has so much potential. Hold up, what? The words he speaks and potential just does not ring wedding bells to me. Don't focus on the words of someone, but focus on their actions, their deeds, and their motives behind them, because that is a ticket and reveals the person's true intentions and their heart, not words. Anyone can talk until the cows come home, but if their actions don't back it up, then nope. Also, potential, I can't with that word. Don't date with someone for the potential or how you think they will be in the next 5 years. Date someone for who they are in this moment, because they are revealing who they are, not who they're going to be in 5 years, because then the foundation of your relationship isn't based off of truth. And what happens if they change to something else that you don't like in 5 years? Then what? Everyone has potential, and also people change. Now, I'm not going to go into this too much since I talked about this in episode 4 called The Foundation of Relationships. And I'm actually going to use a different angle with how technology interferes with love later on in this episode. But what I will say is when it comes to getting into a relationship, think it through because the last thing you need are more problems. Now, we had to touch on that because I want to make sure we are sharing as much as we possibly can with you. Judge Dan, anything you want to share? Will you hurry up already? Just move on. Whew. Whatever you say, Judge Den. Here we go. She's in a rush today. Something else to think about is how immediate gratification creates a false positive, since just because something happens in an instant doesn't mean it works for everything, nor does it mean that everything you want will happen at a moment's notice. This is how, when it comes to technology, there can be a downfall. The speed of technology can cause people to think that everything happens in an instant. Just because your phone has access, or just because you have the internet at your fingertips, doesn't mean everything will happen in a moment's notice. Doesn't mean things in life are going to happen at that speed. All good things take time. Just because you can order something and it arrives the same day or the next day, doesn't mean everything happens that way. Not everything happens overnight. What this does is create the instant gratification, which you just talked about, and that kind of thinking or leaks or spreads into other areas of life where you think it will happen overnight, and if we're not careful, it can create problems down the road. Immediate gratification may breed complaining, not being enough, or feeling unworthy, right? Insecurity, and rejection. You may feel sad, disappointed, have a lack mentality, always wanting more, a lack of patience where you are not satisfied in the moment, and where you start comparing yourself and look in someone else's backyard. You may even feel depressed, lost, feel like a failure, which deflates your ego, which actually humbles you, in a sense, thinking that you can have something right away, which really means you're putting emphasis on things that are not important. Immediate gratification yields entitlement, anger, resentment, where you may feel unfulfilled or dissatisfied. And once again, have that lack of patience and lack of humility, since pride takes over because you always want more and think you are entitled to it. But it's just not healthy. For example, when you post something on social media and no one likes it right away, you may start to have a gratified feeling of posting something, but what happens when it's not liked right away? How do you really start to feel? It may breed rejection, which really is redirection, since there is focus on the wrong things and teaches patience. It causes disappointment, right? This lack mentality, which I mentioned, where we're always wanting more, lack of patience, where you're not satisfied in the moment, and where you start comparing yourself to others and start looking at someone else's backyard. And they also cause you to rush into things as well and creates more want for things you don't really need, and where you feel dissatisfied with yourself, and slowly but surely your perspective shifts. It also has a sneaky way, and if not caught, thoughts and feelings of you not accomplishing anything in your life and that your goals won't be reached and so forth because we may compare ourselves to others. This causes more thoughts such as well, why can't I be like him or her? When will be my time? So and so looks so happy with this person. When am I going to meet someone? When am I going to have a successful business? And so forth. And if we're not careful, it can create problems down the road where a lot of emotions come in, which I mentioned earlier, and blossoms the comparative culture, which is not brought by God. These types of feelings may cause you to rush into things and doesn't just apply to social media, but also applies in everyday life and how you think and operate at work, at the gym, when you're driving, how you treat others, dating, etc. Some forms of technology that are examples that are deep in the immediate gratification piece are AI, and you have Chat GPT, and now Meta glasses. I don't even know what it's all about, but whatever. The first example is AI. Now we notice that AI has crept into workplaces to sift through or sort out job applications faster to find the right person for the position. It may be faster for the company where they can focus on other tasks, but here's the deal. A robot can't pick up on the essence of the person applying for the position and solely focuses on words, the years of experience, skills, but that's about it. It's just not natural. And before all of this, when more people were hiring managers or recruiters looked at resumes, people were given chances and the benefit of the doubt to work and succeed. Okay, so the person doesn't have all those qualifications that the job may require. But with just like everything, they can learn. If there is a will, there is a way. And that just applies to everything in life. The same thing with Chat GPT. This form of technology is at your fingertips and is dangerous because everything is literally right there. This application creates more of a want and immediate gratification since they want in an instant and they want it now, but don't want to put the energy into creating their own work. And here's the deal: you won't be able to remember what is on your resume because you didn't write it. Chat GPT did. It makes no sense and just promotes laziness. I need to write a book report. Well, how about you read the book and then spend time generating your own thoughts and ideas and pour that into a paper and not what a robot wrote? It just doesn't compute with my mind. After all, a robot can't pick up on a heartbeat of someone and who they are. It sadly produces a lack of drive, energy, and that desire to roll up those sleeves, research, and get to work. But it shows laziness and entitlement. There's a lack of working hard for something that may take time to receive a result, but that's the best part. Imagine if I went to Chat GPT, right? And I said, hey, Chat GPT, write me a 20-page, no, write me a 30-page paper about the interferences of technology. No, my heart goes into this. And that is something technology doesn't have. And I'll fire it up. So, do you see the link now? How links to instant gratification with those forms of technology and how it's all about the now? Delayed gratification, love it, is the slow and steady. Bring it in. It's the slow and steady wins the race where you work on yourself. Oh, it's so good. Your goals, knowing it all takes time, but it's all worth the wait because there is glory through it all. Through suffering and through passion, there's the glory. And we can point this to a business of any kind. Do you think that any large corporation blossomed into its size overnight? Nope. It too started off small, pivoted quite a bit, redirected its focus, its vision on where it was heading, and just kept going, and growing. But it all took time. Just the thought of starting a business is great to have, but now it's time to take those small steps and work on those goals daily. And yeah, the fear is going to come in, but it's because it's the unknown. But something I mentioned on the first episode, actually second episode, called Rules of Fitness, we weren't born knowing how to do things. And we literally learn along the way and develop passions and cultivate creative ideas as we take those steps. So take a deep breath, start writing up a list of things or goals you want to achieve, and take the pressure off because when you start working on them, you'll make it a point to continue. And then a week from now, a month from now, a year from now, you're going to look back and say, wow, I did that. And I did that. And you'll keep moving from there. It's so powerful. Speaking of technology, the smartphone didn't happen overnight. The concept was probably worked on for quite some time, or maybe even years before it hit the stores. The same thing with the first computer. It took a while for it to come into fruition. So if they can do it, so can you. You just have to look within yourself. You really do. Now, when I was a kid, a little Jen, right? Did I know that I was going to write a podcast? Nope. Podcast didn't exist back then. It's an example, but hopefully this brings light to the situation that's best to lock in, focus on your goals, and unleash that potential that is burning inside. Ignite the flame with the candle in your heart and let that fire grow. Something else to keep in mind is every pivot that you make is an opportunity for you to grow and advance and learn more. And hey, you are discovering more, which is pretty cool. And speaking of discovering, another great book that I highly recommend is called Bluefishing by Steve Sims. I have it right over here. You can see right over here. Perfect. I remember one day, so it's a bit of a story time. I was at Barnes and Noble and actually looking for another book, which we're going to mention on this episode, called The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. And when I was looking for this book, someone in that same section recommended that I read Bluefishing. by Steve Sims. And I'm so glad I did because this is another great book to read besides the Bible. It's just literally incredible. And so, which is incredible. Now, Psalm 119, 105 states, and this is a favorite and so true, that your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. And I'll repeat that again. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. If you want guidance, get the Bible. Highly recommend it. And if you want to write this down, I'll gladly repeat it again. It's Psalm 119, 105. So Psalm 118, line 105. You got it? Perfect. And this is a favorite line of mine. It says, your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Thank you, Lord. Praise God. So good. Whew. It's going to change the way you think. It's powerful. Meaning that his word is a lamp to my feet or guides me or dictates my steps on the path of light and shows me where I need to go and that I'm not lost because he, the Lord, directs you since his word lights up the path to the next step and your next step in a patient, loving way. And there's a lot of order to it. I felt the need to share this with you because it touched my heart, and I really do pray it does the same for you. There are times we feel lost, but the word always gets us back on track and can clear the mind of any doubt, fear, worry, or trouble in an instant. And it also has the power to breathe life into your heart and completely alter your way of thinking of old concepts or precepts that you thought to be true or how you thought you should live your life. And when he guides you on that next step, that's all you can focus on so you're not distracted. And you have one vision and you don't live in fear, but you live in peace. You walk in peace. Maybe you haven't heard the Bible being spoken to you before, and that's okay. I pray that this will actually guide you along in your life. As mentioned before, sometimes we can let fear enter, which causes people to lose focus, to stay busy on other things instead of working on their goals. And instead, they look to their phones or watch countless hours of TV because they are afraid of failing at one task. But there really is no such thing as failure because you are learning. In Steve Sims' book called Bluefishing, Sims states on page 54, and I quote, I want to find another word for fail. I don't believe that it means not succeeding. The Thai language has no direct translation of the English no. They have a word of yes and try, but they don't have a common word for no. I think we should find an alternative word for the word fail. When you try and fail, the word should be discover. I remember when I read this book and that this part stuck out to me, and I really wanted to share this with you because if there is fear and that's why you're distracted by technology, it's because you're afraid of failing. But in reality, you're not failing. You are, as Steve Sims says, discovering. You are learning and discovering what works and doesn't work, and now you have more knowledge under your belt, which is even better. Sims also continues to say on page 56, changing your perspective from failing to discovering is what allows you to continue to the next leg of your journey. It gives you both the courage and the curiosity to keep going. Well, more power to that. But we're not done yet, team. He also mentions on page 58, obstacles are only in your mind. They are like a prophecy that you fulfill to make your failure feel better. And I purposely use the word failure now because if you build up those obstacles in your head, you're looking for a reason to end it. That's when failure comes in. You're not a loser or a failure if you get knocked down. We all get knocked down. As they say, the fight's not over when you go down. The fight's over when you stop getting up. Whew, it's a good one. So, a little story time. Do you remember from the first episode that is centered around how fear and perfection go hand in hand? When I mentioned that I made 6 batches of brownies before I developed the ideal fudgy brownie recipe. Imagine if I gave up after one try. I wouldn't have researched and learned more about how the ingredients work together, nor made a recipe that I feel yields the ideal brownie. The point is, if I let that get to me, who knows what I would have achieved? Maybe I would have stopped creating, but didn't. Also, the best part is I learned more along the way, which means more knowledge under my tool belt, which is better than anything. And now I can apply it to other things. And I discovered what doesn't work and what does. So I get to see both sides of the coin. And just because you get stuck doesn't mean something is wrong. It just means you need to learn more about the subject so you have more knowledge. And greatness takes time. And you need to allow yourself the time and patience to get there. Every small step that you take matters. It all matters. And I believe in you. And when we are afraid of failure, we turn to distractions. A key word I mentioned is distraction, meaning you're not focusing on one thing, since DI means two. And when you are distracted, you can't have that one vision. When we have a distraction or diversion, we are not mentally, physically, and emotionally focusing on one thing since we are thinking about something else or looking at something else. Now imagine that as I'm talking to you, right, I have my phone literally right in front of me and I'm looking at emails, right? Just scrolling through. I'd be distracted and I wouldn't be focusing on the message and what I'm conveying. And just because you get stuck doesn't mean something is wrong. It just means you have to keep going and growing and keep learning. And greatness, as I mentioned, takes time. And you need to allow yourself that time just to get there. And I honestly do believe in you because hey, if I can focus, I know you can. Now, as Robin Sharma states on page 66 in the 5 a.m. club, what's up? So good. He says, so many good souls among us are just so scared they refuse the call on their lives to go out into the blue ocean of possibility, where mastery, the dignity of bravery, and the authenticity of audacity await them. Just blew me away. Wow. Anyway, all right, woo, so good. Another form of distraction is multitasking, which is what I see a lot of these days. Since things seem to be moving at a faster pace with technology and the world we live in, multitasking seems to be a top priority where it has become the new norm to have 20 tabs open at the same time while we're working. But there's no focus in that. You may have 20 tabs open at the same time with different projects to work on, but you can't literally focus on all of those 20 things at the same time, or let alone 5 tabs or 2. You can only focus on one. So multitasking really isn't a legitimate thing. It's just a thought that is designed to make us feel better. We're getting so many things done at the same time, but you can really focus on just one thing at a time. Our brains aren't designed to be overstimulated, running in helter skelter, since there's a lack of focus on what you're doing if you're thinking about the 20 things you have to get done. Also, we are not designed to be pulled in those directions because we are no longer centered. We lose concentration and focus. I know sometimes working can be busy and there are a lot of things to juggle and carry, but think about this in your personal life. Let's say you're cleaning and listening to music. Are you focusing on the cleaning or the music? You're focusing on the cleaning. Now, I know for me, it would be the music because I'd be dancing the whole time. Or even at the gym, right? Or cooking and you're listening to music. The music may set the tone, but you're focusing on the task at hand, which is right in front of you. It's the same thing with your goals. You're focusing on one goal or one incremental step at a time until that is accomplished. And then you can move on to the next one and the next one. If you're focusing on 20 different tasks at the same time, you are not really getting too much done, and it's all psychological. What I like to do is write everything down so I can visualize it so I know what I have to get done and focus on one thing at a time so I can put my energy into that one task. Same thing applies to when you're at work and the thing is about having those 20 tabs open at work. You may think you're getting all of that done, but your brain is being split in so many directions that it becomes fried by the end of the day. Your internal tank is empty. You're exhausted, tired, and mentally fatigued. And hey, I've been there too, and I don't like it. There were times when I asked myself, what did I even accomplish today? What did I even do? Because it felt like I was busy. But was I really, though? Something else to think about is that if we have those tabs open, we may think we can add on more to our plates. So if your boss asks you to get something else done, you automatically say yes because hey, why not? I'm working on all these other things. Words today need to come out, please. I definitely add on more. And those tabs keep growing and growing, and the more you will start to feel helter skeltered and have brain fog, and you just can't focus. There is no harm in saying no. And the key is to focus on the things of importance so you can put your full attention to it one step at a time and not rush through just to finish it because that is more force and anxious energy that you don't need. Now, in the 5 a.m. Club, Robin Sharma, which actually I just mentioned, um, he it's a great book because it's another one that you want to take note of since it will actually help you to turn your life around and also changes the way that you think. There are several parts in this book where it talks about the downside or weaknesses of technology and how our minds are meant to focus on one thing at a time and not focus on those multiple tabs at once because you can't focus on a single task if that's what you're doing. Oh, but I'm multitasking. No, you're actually not because even when you have all of those tabs open at the same time, what are you doing? Focusing on the one tab before jumping to the next tab. And what are you doing there? Focusing on that tab. So all you are doing is going back and forth. You may be doing two things during a certain time span, but you're not multitasking. Also, having all those tabs open leaves you feeling discombobulated and disorganized and not having enough energy or bandwidth to even focus. And there are times when tasks we're working on are not a priority. Now, on page 128 of the 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma, Sharma states, and this is a quote from Albert Einstein, that Albert Einstein made the point exquisitely when he wrote, only one who devotes himself to a cause with his whole strength and soul can be a true master. For this reason, mastery demands all of a person. Sharma then goes on to mention this really is one of the most closely guarded secrets of the virtuosos and history makers. They don't diffuse their cognitive bandwidth. They don't dilute their creative gifts, chasing every shiny diversion, every attractive opportunity that comes their way. No, instead they exercise the fierce discipline required to do only a few things, but at an absolutely world-class level. In order for you to master something in life, you can't be distracted and have multiple things going on at once. It's too noisy, and there is a blurred vision and complete lack of focus and vision. Focus on the one, master it, take your time, breathe, give yourself that time and work at it every day and focus on the right things. Focus on your passion since that is your heartbeat. That is your pulse. All the noise deterring you from it is all noise and only holds you back into not achieving what you desire, nor does it bear any weight to where you're headed. And even Einstein said it. Telling me. Something I want to leave you with before we move into the next part of this episode is from page 119. And you may want to write this down, so I'll just say it very, very, very slowly. Sharma writes on page 119 in the 5 a.m. Club, if you want to take note, an addiction to distraction is the death, oh good, okay, of your creative production. And once again, an addiction to distraction is the death of your creative production. Just want to leave that there for you for a little bit, just to kind of meditate on that. Another part to think about in regards to multitasking and technology is asking yourself, do I really need to answer that message, that email right away? Does this really need my immediate attention at this very moment? Or may I pull away, reflect, be in the present moment, and come back to it a little later? Not everything is urgent, and we have to know the difference. If we answer every phone call, text, email in an instant, we can't focus. We're overworked, and hours slip by, and what progress did we make? And how do we know what's an absolute need or necessity to work on? Not only that, but it causes our cortisol to go through the roof and even targets our adrenal glands, which are on top of our kidneys. And if we're not careful, it can lead to physical problems, which we'll go into a little bit later. Technology is starting to subconsciously control us when we are the ones that created it. But there is a way around this, so let's jump in. Something else to keep in mind with delayed gratification is self control, because these two work actually in tandem. So, how do these two work together? Well, as mentioned earlier, delayed gratification is when you get over that selfish desire to want something now in the moment and you decide to wait for something best suited for you. Self control is discipline and focus, meaning you don't give into temptation or what's around you. You don't rush into something to bring it into the now, and where you practice patience. So good. According to Merriam Webster, the definition of self control is restraint exercised over one's own impulses, emotions, or desires. Now, once again, it means restraint exercised. Writing this down. Perfect. Oh, great students. Over one's own impulses, emotions, or desires. Meaning you don't rush into something, act on impulse, or make a decision based around it. Now imagine this where self control and discipline are the core components of a tree, right? They're planted in the ground and their roots are locked into the soil, which represents their morals, values, beliefs, their key core system that provides them the nourishment and growth. Now, trees have leaves, right? So if your core system is based off of your morals, values, self respect, honor, integrity, and discipline, the leaves produced will be that of patience, obedience, peace, simplicity, which is purity, a strong inner knowing, character, upright, delayed gratification, restraint, meaning not giving into temptation. There's a sense of harmony and giving everything time. Now why a tree? Because when trees are planted, they take root and have a strong sense of self where nothing can shake them. They are unbendable, unchangeable, and bear a strong core meaning that these are my roots. I'm not changing the ways for not changing these my ways for the world, not giving into temptation. You want to rush, you can go right ahead, but I'm going to stand firm and be planted right here and not bending for the ways of the world. Where there is not giving into the latest trend, running to buy the next best thing out of desire, and where there is a choice to not chase after things that will bring no peace, where there is no rushing into anything such as a relationship, since that takes time and patience, and where I'm just going to stand firmly planted in my beliefs. Where there is patience, comfort in knowing that I don't need the things of this world to satisfy me, and where I'm comfortable being rooted in who I am, where I'm not settling for less. I can grow, and in that growth period, take time and be in alignment with my morals, values, and how I can focus and progress in life. As mentioned, self control is intertwined, right, with discipline. The definition of discipline, according to Merriam Webster, is control gained by enforcing obedience or order. So, once again, discipline means control gained by enforcing obedience or order. And one of the definitions that Cambridge University states is discipline is also the ability to control a mental activity. Meaning, when you are in self control, you are living a life of obedience and are in control of your thoughts and where your mind is leading you. Since the mind is a driver of a lot of things you face in situations and dictates how you react to things and controls or dictates your actions. When there is self control, there is inner peace. And I don't mean where you're living within the confines of a box where life is rigid, but more where you're focused on what you actually truly need in life. And not all these material things or possessions that you want, because when you want something, it sometimes means there's a lack of patience on waiting for the right thing or the right person. And there's a big difference, which we will uncover shortly. Before we do, I am going to give a brief example and bring this place into it because it ties in. So you have two words. Any guesses? No? Okay. Two words. The gym. Self control is number one. Controlling your intake, the types of foods you eat, your training schedule, routine, how consistent you are, etc. All of these components tie into the recipe and yield self control, and it plays out in other facets of your life. Self control leads you to focus on your needs versus your wants, meaning you prioritize what you actually truly need instead of buying things based off of an emotion. For example, let's say you are shopping and buy random items to justify why you bought them without even thinking about it. You may purchase these things because you create a narrative that you need to buy them. For example, you can see yourself wearing those shoes or that jacket, the sweater, or using a tablet. Then a week goes by and you forget about it. You bought them on a whim. And hey, no worries because it happened to me several times where I bought something and I completely forgot I even owned it. I mean, how many shirts can I even wear? One a day? Let's say that's probably it. However, it can get into the extreme where we buy to fill a void, where we purchase items to show our worth in the world, meaning that if we have more, then we arrived in society. But it's actually the opposite. It means we're empty. And this can be applied to any item. Sometimes things are purchased out of greed and wanting more, which is the complete and total opposite of self-control. And it's okay. I've been there before too, so no judgment. I'm just sharing what I know and releasing my thoughts and hoping that helps you. I literally just bought these shoes. You're like calling me greedy. Like, who does she think she is? It's little Miss Gentox. Why is my dad even paying for this class? Well, number one, cute shoes. And no, I am not calling you greedy. And please thank your dad for me because I'm actually really happy you're here. All right. There are times when I go shopping and I may see something that is cute. And I ask myself, is this a want or a need? If it's a need, then okay. But if it's a want, I put it back on the shelf because it's only going to take up space and I don't need material items to fill the void. And I'm no longer putting value on material items because in reality, it doesn't matter because there are more important things to focus on than whether or not I have the latest technology, a certain colored sneaker, and so forth. It's not about the material because that doesn't heal the heart. It just masks a void. So if you're buying for the sake of buying, then why are you truly buying it? Is it a want or a need? Is it a I have the money so I can buy whatever? Are you feeling a different way and are masking that feeling because maybe you feel alone? Are you buying to show that you reach a certain status where you can freely spend on impulse, or do you genuinely need it? Or is it purchasing out of jealousy and envy because of what others have? The Bible states so good in James verse 3 line 16, jealousy and selfish ambition lead to disorder. My apologies. Jealousy and selfish ambition lead to disorder and evil practices. Think about it. Jealousy and envy lead to greed and selfish ambition, where you always want more, aren't at peace within yourself, don't have enough, and you may become ruthless to get what you want. And it doesn't matter how you get there as long as you achieved it. So just be careful. And social media doesn't help with this since it causes those lines to be blurred where you think that you need something. But it's only a want because it's a satisfaction issue. You're not satisfied or content with what you have, so you feel the need to buy more. Focus on what others have and think that by buying more, you have more options of items to pick from. It may also cause you to look in other people's backyards, and eventually it leads to discontentment, sadness, jealousy, and despair. And those feelings start to stir up within you and may lead you down other paths. As mentioned above, it can eventually take the approach of pride, which is stemmed in insecurity and a wounded ego, greed, and a lack of self control. A lack of self control leads to materialism and causes you to think you can have anything you want within a second. And granted, we do have freedom. But when we are spending outside of our means and don't really need something and buying out of that place of want or dissatisfaction, then there's the problem. It's living within your means and not letting that desire take over. Sometimes we buy things to stock up and tell ourselves that we will use that item, but years go by and it's still there. They're just place fillers. When you place possessions above everything, they become your idol, and you actually work around them. You make space around material, and subconsciously, without realizing it, those thoughts become normalized as if it's okay to revolve your life around things, and there's no space for anything to flow. At the end of the day, where do you place your value? Out of the heart is your treasure. For as it says in the Bible in the book of Matthew, verse 6, line 21, for where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. If you place value or your heart on materials, the ways of this world, that's where your heart is. You're going to be just looking for that the whole time. Place your heart on the things above. So that's where the true treasure is. It's important to be so careful with what we value, where we place our hearts, because that's what drives us forward. So if you have the love of money, your actions and your deeds will be placed around that. If you value things, the materials, your heart will value things. Every step that you take is directed from the heart. Shopping sometimes means you're filling a void because you attach an emotion to an item thinking that it will make you feel better. Maybe maybe it'll make you feel at ease, at peace, resolve all of your problems and so forth. But what it leads to is an increase in dopamine. Right? The emotion is still there because it's not being attended to. You may still be lost and relying on things to fill up a space within you or internally that really needs to be addressed. And the question of asking yourself, is this a want or a need, goes out the window. And here's the deal. Most or some of the things we buy anyway doesn't last that long. They don't actually last that long and wind up being thrown out. So why waste your time, your money, and space? Why? They are more of a want, and the most important thing is to have true peace of mind that no item can buy. And if not watched, a lack of self control can lead to greed since you're not satisfied with what is around you. There's a lack of contentment. And if that's the case, it's best if you figure out why you feel that way. So you're no longer controlled by things, materials, and or possessions that truly have no value. For it is even said in the Bible, the book of Luke, verse 12, line 15, so good. It says, watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions. Reading that one again. He says, in the book of Luke, verse 12, line 15, let's bring this one home. Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions, meaning that life does not contain its value in the possessions or the things you have, and greed might be knocking at your doorstep. Even here, the Bible mentions to be alert since greed comes in different packages. And it isn't just the lust for money, but the love of things and having an abundant amount of them. And there is more to life than your possessions, since you can't take them with you anyway. All they have is monetary value, and that's it. For example, a kind of greed may be where you're buying things for status, where you think that by acquiring things, I mentioned this before, you reach a certain point in your life where you can just buy anything. But in reality, it's all to prove a point that you have money, but doesn't lead to happiness, since just because you can buy material items doesn't mean you have inner peace. It just means greed is entering your life and pride is coming in and are ignoring why you buy the things that you do. Greed can also lead to ruthlessness, where someone will do something just for themselves to either make more money, further climb the corporate ladder, etc., and can also take control over your life, where the whole concept of want versus need is thrown out the window, meaning almost everything turns into a want. And the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. So good. Whew. Psalm 23. Telling you. That the word just cuts me every time. So good. All right. See? Back on track here. Just love it. Another form of greed is that when you buy things, even though you can't afford it, by signing up for payment plans just to pay off the purchase instead of practicing self control and honestly asking yourself, is this really a need or a want? And if it's a want, don't buy it. And it's literally just happened to me where actually I questioned myself before buying something. So I'll tell you a story. I was at Target and saw this cute red mug that was shaped like a heart that had a gold brim on the top. And I remember attaching a feeling to it. But I remember asking myself, is this a want or a need? And I felt like it was a want because I have enough mugs. But honestly, how many mugs I need, I can just, to drink tea out of? One or two? That's fine. But what I did is that I put the mug back and kept walking. But I have to tell you how freeing it is when you ask yourself those questions of this is a want or a need. And even my heart feels lighter as I'm saying this because I'm not bound by material. It's freeing when you're not bound by possessions and are content within your heart and are at peace with yourself because you don't need the outer possessions or the worldly desires to fulfill something in your heart or to fulfill a need of some sort because you have peace and are not controlled by things that are just things. And now you are in control. You are. You're in control over your emotions and you keep yourself in check and are living in peace. Obviously, we need certain things like clothing, food, shelter, utensils, shoes, etc. But when it leads into excess, then that's where it gets tricky, where that fine line is blurred and you lose focus. And if you need a reminder, you can sing this song called The Bare Necessities from the Jungle Book. Baloo literally sings, and don't spend your time looking around. It's such a jam for something you want that can't be found. Bum, bum, bum. When you find out you can live without it and go along not thinking about it. So good. I'll tell you something true. The bare necessities of a life will come to you. Maybe I should get Baloo on the show. Judge Dan, what do you think? No? Why not? All right, we'll talk about it later. Anyway, but maybe he'd be on the show because we can sing along. It's just a thought. She's a tough one. Oof. All right. Anyway, I'll give you an example. Another one, actually. And it's very simple coffee. And you can replace coffee with any other vice or distraction. In the beginning, I would have coffee all of the time. In the morning, another cup a few hours later, and sometimes in the afternoon, and even go outside to get an Americano. It's a lot of coffee, not only that, but it adds up cost wise. But this was not only once in a while, but literally almost every day. I drank coffee like it was water, and they are not the same. They're literally different. Water gives you energy. Speaking of water, hold on. Thank you, Lord. Into that. So good. And clarity. Now I'm back. Whereas coffee may give you a boost of energy, but awareness often causes us to think that the only way we have energy or can function is by caffeine. But in reality, that's not true at all. It's really all in the mind. We don't really need it. It's a want and becomes an addiction where you lack self-control, where you rely on it, and in a sense it's a vice and it controls you, and those thoughts can lead to greed and always wanting more because you don't feel satisfied within yourself. I know, coffee, right? But you can replace it with any other example and the concept is still there. Yeah, but I need it to get out of bed in the morning. No, you don't. You need your mind to be clear because I talked about this in the last episode with the Venn diagram with how when your mind and your heart are in unison, right, it pushes the physical forward. And if it's because there's little energy to get out of bed, then it sounds like there's a heart issue. Or maybe you are not looking forward to starting the day, where very little is giving you that inertia to move, where you are trying to find your sole purpose in life and feel lost, and therefore think that coffee will give you that push, and that's something to look forward to. But in reality, you don't need it. It's funny, while working on this episode, I eventually stopped drinking coffee, and if I'm tired, then I'll drink water. And if I'm really that tired, I'll take a nap. But what it really boils down to is self control, where I'm in control over my actions, where and how I choose to spend my time, my focus. And if I can control my intake of coffee and ask if it's a want or a need, then I can apply that to other situations too. And also, I find myself being and feeling freer because I'm not attached to the desire of wanting more coffee, going to a coffee shop and buying Americanos and so forth, but can literally say, hey, I don't need it, and walk away from it. Also, I'm not letting a substance or an object control me, control my spending, my day and my thoughts and so forth, and don't live in remorse or regret because I just wasted money on something that I really don't need, which leads us into more of that want versus need section. So I mentioned before that self control ties into want versus need. A need is something that is a necessity, whereas a want is wanting something for the sake of it, just because we can have it. For example, buying makeup, jewelry, shoes because you saw ads on social media. And once you see it, the desire comes in and you start thinking about how you can match this shoe with this outfit and how this piece of jewelry would match with this and how this color mascara is different from the one you have and so forth. It can keep going. So you buy it, but then it just sits on the shelf and isn't used. And you justify why you need these things. Those shoes sitting in the closet. That piece of jewelry, maybe worn once. That mascara, maybe worn a couple of times, but then stopped being used. The car you wanted and bought just because you can have it, even though it's not in need. These are all wants. But the more we keep doing that, the more our decisions are being guided by that umbrella of want, rather than taking a step back and making our decisions from under the umbrella of need. And it all starts here because I mentioned if you can control that part of yourself, it will lead to other facets of your life where you can make the right decisions out of necessity, not solely out of wants and desires, because that is a dangerous slope. And if you don't get something you want in the now, how do you handle it? Are you patient? Do you wait for the right thing to come along? Or do you rush? Because that also reveals the motives and the intentions of the heart. Now, social media doesn't only lead to greed, love of things, materials, or possessions, but also creates a comparative and competitive culture and a rush regarding to love and relationships. All right. Everyone's with me? Yes? Yeah, okay. Just checking on my team because I know it's a lot, but thanks for bearing with me. I really do appreciate it. Well, it's not like we have a choice. My dad paid for this class. Well, I'll send him a refund. I'm so sorry. All right, now we're going to hop into the realm of love. Tough crowd, relationships, and how dating apps tend to speed things up way too fast. But I digress. As I mentioned in the fourth episode of The Foundation of Relationships, the mere importance of really getting to know someone and not rushing into something because you're worried about not being in a committed relationship. I also mentioned people enter relationships to have a sense of ownership where you don't want anyone dating this person, so you rush into it out of your own insecurity and fear. Dating apps tend to lead people into more of the want and desire and push away the patience of falling in love. Where there's a lack of patience upon entering into a relationship with someone, it may be caused by outside pressures from others, worldly desires, the desire to be with someone even if he or she is not the right one because of the fear of being alone, feeling a void because you're unsatisfied with your life, etc. So there is a rush to get into a relationship which is based off of a falsehood or a false and weak foundation that wasn't built off of genuine truth, trust, and honesty. Where the relationship is built off of a rush foundation where you and this person enter the relationship because of societal pressures, pressures from your family, friends, and this bizarre timeline that society somehow deemed normal if you're married by a certain age. But times have changed. The time, age, or era of patience needs to enter in when where we are not in a rush to get involved with someone because of how we see others living, which is a comparative culture component that social media tends to bring into the world of dating, where we feel less about ourselves because we see others in a relationship and we aren't in one. It's time to take a step back, reevaluate, and truly think about, am I with this person because of their heart? Or am I with them because of a want, a loneliness, or just to say, I'm in a relationship? So you can feel like nothing is wrong with you. And my brain can't even wrap around this and doesn't even want to comprehend it because it makes no sense. That there is this very weird societal norm that if you're not in a relationship, then something must be wrong with you. If I'm not married, at this certain time or age of my life and have this amount of kids living in this house and work at this job for the next 40 years and yada, 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 then something must be wrong with me. Excuse me, who came up with this rule? Is this law published anywhere? Because when I was born, no one told me about it. And honestly, it's dumb and creates so much pressure we can't even focus and think straight. It's not in the Bible, it's not in the Constitution. So what's up? Here's the deal, nothing is wrong with you. It's best to be alone than with the wrong person because being with the wrong person can make you feel even more alone. It's best to take the time to find the job that's best for you and not rush into one just for the sake of a title or pressure of getting one. That you take time getting to know the person before you marry them and get to know their heart and where you take time bringing children into this world. Time. Please keep that in mind and stop letting the world dictate your every move. It gets old. Now, I mentioned this on previous episodes, but it applies to this topic, and I have to keep driving the point home. I just care way too much, and no one can fault me for that because every step you take leads to the next and really drives your future. Let's say you want to be a baseball player in the major leagues, right? And in the big MLB. Everything that you do, every step that you take is crucial to becoming a baseball player in those leagues where you need to take the time, right? You need to focus on conditioning, training, practicing every day, the amount of games you play, your mindset, diet, and so forth. Every step you take is crucial and leads you to the next one. Every relationship or friendship you enter in leads you down your path in some way, shape, or form, which is why it's important to take your time and be aware of who you let into your circle. I pray and hope that when someone enters into a relationship that it works out. But there are times when it doesn't, and that's okay because it means it's not the right one. And it's the right package but wrong door, and that's okay. We learn to move on from it. But the point is to be mindful of your steps, actions, and who you let into your life too, because as I said before, the mind and emotion tie into the physical and moves that into a direction, which all stems from the heart, which you need to protect and take care of, which is why it's important to be mindful because every action leads to your next step and yields some sort of result. So you got to really check your heart, be mindful and careful, and once again, take your time. Some are late bloomers and some know what they want at a younger age. Some get married earlier in life and others don't and get married later. Everyone has their own time. Everyone has their own morals and values. But the key is to hold on to those core morals and values, not compromise, and once again, with anything you are doing, take your time. Don't live your life based off of the timeline society is telling you to live, but have faith in the timeline that God has for you. That's what you need to focus on. And when you're living your life according to Him, there's a lot less pressure and fear when you're on His path instead of what society is telling you to do. He's the real road to peace. So that relationship you don't want to be in, but are in because you are settling or filling a void where you can't be alone out of fear or anxiety, is leading to heartbreak because what happens if it doesn't work out? The relationship is built off of a rocky ground. It's not stable and exists because of a satisfaction issue, discontentment, and fear, and operates under false pretenses, which just won't work. And if you and this person wind up breaking up, it brings more heartache and pain, not only to you, but to the other person. So that's why it's important to take a step back and actually evaluate these situations and actually take your time. Whether you like it or not, time is your friend, and it helps you to trust more in yourself and ability to make decisions where you're not in a rush to jump into something. And within time, you will see why it is important to wait for the right person to enter your life and walk with you because we really don't have time to waste time. We really don't have time to waste our time on things that won't matter in the end. There are way more important things to keep our minds on. Now, I don't know where all this relationship talk even came from. I'm telling you, it's giving me a little bit headache, give me a headache here. But I'm just kidding because I can talk about this stuff all day long. This is actually a lot of fun. So I really enjoy being here. Yeah, we know. Move on. Sorry, Judge Jen. If you insist, at your pace. Jeez. When's your vacation? Hmm, okay. Well, it came from Mr. Social Media because Mr. Social Media isn't solely Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, etc., but it's also dating apps. Are dating apps needed? No. Because think about how your parents met. Did they meet on a dating app? No. It didn't exist back then. How did your grandparents meet? I bet if you asked your parents or grandparents after this class how they met, they wouldn't say Instagram, social media, or dating apps of any kind. They may have met via a friend of a friend, right? Maybe they grew up together. Maybe they met at work or met somewhere random at a bus stop or coffee shop or a restaurant. That's just a beautiful mystery of life. You never know who you're going to meet and when the Mr. or Mrs. Right will waltz in. You just don't know. And that's the fun. But these dating apps get in the way of that beautiful, enchanting mystery, and all it does is create noise or further rush to get into a relationship with someone and causes a natural flow of relationship to shorten. Because in any sort of relationship, friendship, coworker, romantic, you build a friendship, get to know the person and go from there and not go from swiping in who knows what direction. And then after one date, you two are in a relationship or just have a fling. There is no stability there, right? Like relationships take trust and time. If there is no gradual buildup, no laying of the foundation for a relationship where each stone, block, or Lego piece you lay down represents one part or facet of your life and who you are, which I also talk about in the fourth episode, then is it really going to work if you don't even know the person you're dating? And those dating apps just keep you more addicted to your phone where you're constantly looking at it, where the dopamine kicks in, causing you to check your phone more and more to see if more notifications pop up, and where that anticipation comes in, where you wonder if someone responded to you, which also causes fear or worry to enter in, and you're wondering if this person responded to your message or on your timeline. You're mentally asking yourself, did this person say anything? Did he or she get back to me about this date? And then you get disappointed if this person didn't respond or get back to you within a minute. And then the, oh my gosh, he didn't respond. He must not like me anymore comes in, right? Those thoughts come in. And you see where those thoughts go? And how these apps not only keep you addicted and tied or chained to your phone, but lead you into feeling insecure about yourself, which sucks out your mental energy that really is priceless and can be used for better things in your life where you can focus on yourself more and not waste time and not let it lead you into a comparative culture where you are now comparing yourself to others. It's a very slippery slope and is way too dangerous to be on. And guess what? If this person doesn't like you, or if you don't get involved in a relationship right away, then good. If he or she doesn't like you, then it's all redirection. And it means this person is not for you. And thank God for that, that you're being protected and guided to the right person who is for you and where it's not forced. And that's huge. Can you imagine yourself in a forced relationship? How long do you honestly think that is going to last? And okay, if this person doesn't want to be in a relationship with you right away and wants to take their time, well, thank God because it's teaching you patience, obedience, and self control, and how it's not about your time and when you want it. So the point is just because your friends are in relationships and you're not, doesn't mean anything is wrong with you. It means your timing is different and you have different interests and values. And you know what? When you get into a relationship, it's not up to you anyway. It's up to him. So relax, trust, and let go, and knowing good timing, it all works out. So, what if your friends are random people that you don't even know who post on social media and how happy they are in a relationship, their marriage, and so forth? So, what? Good for them. That's great. And if you're not in a relationship, well, good for you. It doesn't mean you have to swipe in 20 different directions on these dating apps just to rush to get into a relationship because you feel the world is going to end if you're not dating someone. And besides, your values and wants and needs from a partner are different from whatever this person on social media values. So take a deep breath and stay calm. Practice self control, obedience, and within time, it will all work out. And root for those that are in those relationships. It's best to take your time to bring in the right person than waste your heart and mental energy on the wrong relationship just because you're worried and can't be alone and lack self control. It's just a thought. Something else to be cautious of is seeking validation and who or what you are seeking it from. For example, when you post something on social media, you may feel better about yourself in that second. But what happens if no one likes it right away? What do you feel afterwards? Do you feel less than? Do you feel insecure? Do you forget about what you posted and walk away? Do you seek validation from the outside world? Or do you turn the other way and not care? There is a difference between both sides. When you post something on social media, is it to make yourself feel more important, to feel adequate, or are you posting with substance and to help others? And this has nothing to do with small businesses. This is all targeted on a personal level. If you're posting to make yourself feel better, then you are looking for validation from the wrong places and looking for others to make you feel important. Then you're looking for validation for the wrong places. Um, I reread that. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. If there's a lot going on this on this one page, so please bear with me. Here we go. Okay. You're looking for validation for the wrong places and looking for others to make you feel important. Yes. To make your life have some sort of meaning, to feel special, and actually leads you more into yourself, right? Where you're focusing all about yourself and leads to selfish tendencies. Newsflash, your life has always been important and is important. I didn't grow up with social media as a kid, and thank God I didn't. I actually grew up in the dark ages, such as the 90s, and we had good old fashioned CDs to listen to. And guess what? Life was simpler and quieter because we lived our lives peacefully, not concerning ourselves with what others are doing, spending hours on the phone. Oh, guess what? Smartphones didn't even exist back then. Like, praise God. Texting didn't even exist when I was a kid. But I didn't have a thought about how my life was less than others, or that I wanted the world to know what I was doing in that very moment, or that my worth was less than others, or that I wasn't important. Back in the day, there was less noise, more actual pure quality time without technology interfering, where you could be in the presence of loved ones without being distracted by another screen. Where when you came home, your mind was more at peace and connected to something else. Where you could be with your family, friends, so forth, and actually give them their undivided attention because having your phone out while you were with your family, your partner, and so forth isn't really spending quality time. Quality time is when you give each other that undivided attention that each person deserves without looking at your phone. Now, back in my day, I had my family, my friends, music, dancing, and my hobbies because honestly, I don't think anybody cared back then. We were all focusing on living our lives and just being kids. So, what I'm trying to say is that your life has always been important, is important, and will always be important. And maybe you need to write this down because in 5 years, no one will remember what you posted or commented on or how many likes you received on a post. But what they will remember is your heart and how you made them feel. So, spend less time on social media seeking outside validation and spend more time on yourself, your heart, and your goals, and see where that takes you. I promise it will take you a lot further than you think or expect. I remember going to the gym and continuously seeing people recording videos and posting pictures of themselves and literally thinking to myself, does this matter? Does it really matter? Or are you living in a world of self, of, oh, look at me, I'm at the gym? Okay, well, so are 20 other people. Are we all taking pictures of ourselves and posting them on social media? No. I don't have time for that. And I'm focusing on my workout. I don't want the world to know where I am and what I'm doing. Life is private, and not everything needs to be shared. So, why they need to be seen? Why do people need to know what you are doing and to know that you're at the gym? You don't do that when you're at a grocery store because, newsflash, nobody cares. It's high time that we remember who we are and that we have a lot more value on the inside, more than we can ever imagine. So much more potential that is untapped because we are drowning that voice of potential in devices and into that world and into what the world thinks and how it operates. Who cares what the world thinks? Our lives are temporary anyway, so who cares? Also, why did you decide to go to the gym in the first place? For a photo op or to focus on your workout? We need to remember that each one of us has our own unique talents and gifts. It's true. And not waste time on the superficial, which is what social media and devices want you to focus on. There is no peace and no depth in that. All it does is lead you trapped to your phone where you think about it as soon as you wake up and check it when the alarm goes off. May even sleep next to you on your bed or nightstand, and if it's not there, we don't feel at ease. Imagine this. Imagine when you were a kid and didn't have a phone. What was that like? What did you feel during those times? What did you do during those quiet moments? Where was your time spent? Think about those. When we get into the traps of social media, we get into the clutches of the world and become too entrapped by it because it keeps you locked in its ways of thinking, doing, acting, being, keeps you out of the present. It keeps you in the fast pace and causes people to lose sense of what truly matters and will truly matter in the end. And let me tell you, it's not social media and what others are doing. If that's what you are doing, you're lacking in focus and vision, which are what we need more of nowadays. If you're focusing on what everyone is doing, where they're working, their social lives, then where is your attention? When you scroll through Instagram, when was the last time you remembered what someone posted? You may go through Instagram, save posts, but do you remember? Or does the mindlessness come over you as you scroll, save, comment, and post? Think about it. I know I can't. When that mindlessness comes over you, you're bound by it, and a chain is now locked around your wrists as your eyes are literally glued. They are glued to it. And no good. And hey, no judgment. Even Judge Jen told me not to be too harsh because I was there too. Right? I can't judge. No one on this earth can judge. All I can do is tell you what I worked through, warn you, provide advice, and to let you know that life is so much better when I'm not looking at my phone or near it. Life is just richer that way, freer, and I don't feel bound by it. The phone is not a person and doesn't have feelings, so why give it so much attention? It's important to know how to use technology and focus on the good, not the bad. Once you start to let social media, apps, and other forms of technology take over your mind, you'll become hooked and attached. In these days, it is vital to discern how much time and energy you're pouring into it, its tools, social media, and discerning when to use it and for what purpose or purposes. For work, totally get it. But be careful there. And we're going to actually go into that very soon. Staying in touch and networking, perfect. Understand. I totally get that since you can use it when applying for jobs, right? Making social connections when finding a job, making friends when attending a new school, using technology for staying in touch, communication, texting people, and so forth. Totally understand. But when it comes to spending hours on it, it becomes detrimental since it can lead to procrastination, which links to depression and laziness, and the idle behavior which will get you nowhere. Imagine you are on your phone for countless hours a day. If you're researching, working out, working, okay, that makes sense. But looking at social media and going back and forth between several apps a day, watching countless shows, and before you know it, it's bedtime? Like, where did the day go? Was it productive? Honestly, ask yourself those questions. After the course of time, And if not used wisely, technology becomes detrimental to your psyche, and that causes a problem. Since if this cycle is not broken, it will lead into the next day, and the next day. And those minutes turn into hours, which turn into days, weeks, months, and then it's the new year. You get what I'm saying? Stay cautious and watch your time and use it effectively. If you don't nip these thoughts in the bud when they come in or understand these feelings or make a point to really redirect your focus, then these thoughts and feelings may lead you into discontentment, where what you have isn't enough and nothing can fill a void, which is where social media creates a comparative culture, as I talked about, that is based around insecurity, where it becomes very easy to compare ourselves to others and think that their lives are greater than ours or vice versa. However, it's not true. No one's life is better than others. You never know what goes on behind closed doors, and keep in mind you don't know how long this person has been working on their craft or how long they've been in that relationship and so forth. You just don't know what they face unless there's an open, honest conversation about it. A picture is a picture. And although it does speak a thousand words, we also don't know the whole truth. And also, do you really feel that everything on social media is real? Do you? Honestly, answer that question. We are not designed to look at our phones. That's not what life is all about. Can you imagine? Where is my phone? It's hiding somewhere. But can you imagine? That's a good thing. Can you imagine? I was looking at my phone, right, the whole time as I'm teaching. And I'm literally looking at it right in front of my face. And I'm not giving you any attention, right? We're in this class together, but I have my phone right in front of me. And I'm not responding to you. I don't think you appreciate that one bit because number one, it's rude. Number two, it shows I don't really care about the presence I'm in, that I don't really care about you, that I'm not engaged with the conversation and would rather be in my own little world. Can you imagine if you ask me a question and I just say, yeah, hold on 1 second. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, sure. I don't think you'd appreciate that one bit, right? If I'm literally scrolling and you're asking me a question, yeah, hold on, I'll get back to you on that. Oh, yeah, what'd you say? It's rude. But that is what the world is coming to, and people are becoming wired. What's happening is, and this is sad to say, is that we are. Ugh, this is hard to come out. It's hard to say. Um, oof, I need a second. I need a second here. Okay. It's hard for me to say these words. What's happening is, and this is sad to say, is that we are dying on the inside. There are lost souls, and this is making it worse. This phone, this technology it's making it worse. By staring at this phone all day, we're literally hurting our souls and becoming more lost than ever. A lot of energy that could be used for something beneficial is going toward the phone. Since they're looking for fulfillment to fill the void and escape, and are looking for social media just to fill those gaps, fill those the gaps of discontentment and bring us peace. However, it's funny. By looking at this phone for hours on end, we don't feel peace at all or everlasting satisfaction. It's a temporary fix. In fact, when we look at it, our hearts, there it is. You were hiding because you know I'm talking about you. Oh, rude. It knows. It knows. Ah, but by looking at this, guilty, for hours on end, we don't feel at peace at all or everlasting satisfaction. It's a temporary fix. In fact, when we look at it, our hearts start to feel disrupted since we're looking for peace. We're looking to quiet our minds. We are looking for stillness but can't sit still long enough to receive that peace from within. We also put this device and everything that comes with it above other things as well, and we idolize it. Social media becomes an idol and an obsession, which causes the thoughts of opinions of all the people you don't know to take precedence over your security within yourself and who you are, and creates this comfort zone that's actually draining you mentally, physically, and emotionally, and toxically keeps you addicted and puts this veil over your eyes where you can't see or think clearly because it's a distraction. It's a mask for how you really feel. It causes you to feel completely disconnected with how you're feeling on the inside, and then normalize and validate the amount of time you look at this because this is what the world is doing, and so forth. So the whole world is just going to stare at their phones, and you are too. Instead of decluttering, are you going to clutter your mind with more junk, more mindless nonsense that in 5 years won't matter, and spend your time and attention on this? Okay, we need to open our eyes and recognize that this hasn't been working. It isn't working and will never work. There's something deep down inside of you that is hidden and you won't face because that's that inner voice crying out to you, telling you there's something more and it just wants to break free from the noise. But how you can honor this voice by acting on it is by acting on it and listening to it when this is making your mind. How can you actually listen to it when this device is making your mind cloudier and just creates fog? I'm just confused as to why we run to phones and think that this will help us to escape from our problems, our minds, a deep inner sadness we're actually truly feeling, where you feel lost, and for a reason you think this will help you cope in some way, but it's making it worse. And this space of emptiness or this void gets bigger and bigger and grows and grows. We are finding more things to fill it, more vices and distractions to fill it because you can't sit alone, can't be in thought, can't sit in silence because you're running from your own lives and aren't happy with yourselves because you let excuses that your mind because you let excuses into your mind that's trickily sending you. Your mind is literally giving you excuses to win, and it takes over you completely. Okay, so this person, right, posts a picture that makes them look successful and happy with their lives. But in reality, it's all for validation and to feel or look important. We know there's something more out there and more to this life than how others view us or think about us because I'm telling you, someone's opinion about you doesn't matter. And we are not here to people please and live life to look, act, and appear a certain way because it doesn't really matter. What matters is your heart, how you serve, help others, and put others first. That's the true wealth. It's not about you seeking validation with the amount of likes, the amount of messages you have, comments on a picture, and so forth. Guess what? Nobody cares. No one is keeping score and writing down on this day I received this many likes, follows, comments, shares, etc. It's not even alive. It's an arbitrary number. It doesn't matter. Arbitrary meaning that this is unpredictable and these numbers will change. But somehow we add value to these numbers and are addicted to this fluctuation and become addicted or attached to those notifications from social media that we think validates us, which we're actually going to hop into. And if you think about it, there's something really social about social media. Since we are hiding behind our phones as we are communicating and not socializing in person, we think we are engaging in some sort of socialization, but actually, we're hiding. Imagine your life without this. Yeah, I'm talking to you. I'm talking about you device. And I honestly feel feared just by that concept. And imagine what life was like back then when this phone didn't exist. I bet a lot of people of those times got more done, felt less distracted, and actually spent their time wisely. Maybe they invented something for the good, but I'll digress. Oh, yes, you have a question? I've been talking away. Please go for it. I have two questions. Woo, more the merrier. Let's go. You said that back then, maybe they invented something for the good. But why aren't the smartphone and social media not good? Okay, wow. And a second question. Do you think social media and smartphones are causing us to not use our potential? Whoa, those are great questions. So attentive, and I'm giving you the whole sticker pack of gold stars. See me after class, okay? This is a big deal, and here comes your answer. I mentioned this book earlier called The 5 a.m. Club, which was actually written by Robin Sharma, and I'm going to bring it back because it applies here. Now, you mentioned how social media and smartphones are not good. That was a part of the question. They are not good because they have become an addiction and take us away from what we truly need to focus on. Just a little backstory. In the 5 a.m. Club, a billionaire is teaching an entrepreneur and an artist how to channel their inner creativity and live a life free from noise so they can focus on their craft and master it. On pages 117 and 118, the billionaire is talking to the entrepreneur and the artist, and then says to them, "Oh, and that pain I was just speaking of, if not attended to and released, starts to form a deep reservoir of fear and self hatred within us. Most of us don't have the awareness or possess the tools to possess through this well of suppressed anguish. Most of us are unconscious to this quiet torment created by the disrespect we have shown to our promise. And so we deny it if someone even suggests it. We flee from it when presented with an opportunity to manifest it. And we subconsciously develop a series of soul crushing escape routes to avoid feeling this pain generated by our talents denied. Like what? Quiz the entrepreneur. Addictions. Like constantly checking for messages or scanning for likes, or spending vast chunks of our daily lives watching too much television. TV shows have become so superb these days, it's so easy to get hooked. Many among us also make flights from their greatness by chatting and gossiping endlessly, not really understanding that there's a staggering difference between being busy and being productive. On page 119, and I quoted this earlier, but I'll bring it back again because it does apply. Sharma also mentions addiction to distraction is the death of your creative production. So do you see how these forms of technology interfere with your growth and get in the way of your creativity? These vices or distractions at your fingertips are keeping you addicted and robbing you from anything productive or beneficial and are really stealing your time, attention, and focus. Instead of being focused on things of importance and channeling that inner creativity, we are focused on how many likes we receive and the numbers associated with it. We become more attached to our devices, even more addicted to our focus for inner creativity, and it just goes out the window. With the addiction comes in dopamine, which is a chemical that causes you to want more, which we will also go into later. So think about this. How many times have you picked up your phone, looked at it for maybe a minute or so, and then come back and pick it up for a second time after you literally just looked at it? Without realizing it, it becomes a constant struggle, a never ending cycle that feels impossible to break free from, but you can break free from it. I know you can because I have. I broke free from completely removing myself from social media, deactivating accounts, putting my phone on do not disturb so I can focus on things that need to be focused on. I also don't have my phone in my room when I go to sleep since blue light is a no no and it doesn't help you sleep and also further instills a fuzzy, noisy mind before going to sleep. And if I can do it, so can you. Don't let a piece of material, or really anything for that matter, control your life. It's it's not worth it. These distractions of technology also stir up complacency meaning we settle for far less than what we dream of and what we can imagine for ourselves, our futures, and our lives as a whole. The brightness of our future grows dim because of these distractions and because of technology. There is no life there, no movement, and leaves you feeling less than, less whole, and less complete, leaving a void that only things in the world can fill it with, including technology. So many people are lost on their phones, looking at who knows what, thinking they are busy and filling countless hours with noise, and not even positive noise, but noise that empties your tank before you even started looking at your phone. The first scroll leads to a second scroll until before you know it, your time is spent your time is spent on looking through things that are a waste of time, which makes you feel inadequate and incapable of being the best version of you. It's time wasted, which is time lost, and you are not here forever. As mentioned in the last episode, I'm going to bring this same line from the Bible back here that in James verse 4, line 14, you do not know what will happen tomorrow. For what is your life? It is even a vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes away. So why worry? And also, life is but a vapor. This second is fleeting. This moment that just passed, poof, gone. This hour just moved to the next one, and so forth. And before you know it, it's the next day. And oh wow, it's the next week and next month and next year. Like Happy New Year. How much time are we really going to spend on these things? On these hours wasted? One more day? An hour? A second? Also, if looking at your phone this much, are you really engaged in what you are doing? Do you actively care about what you're doing, or are you being passive? Being passive in your life because this device is doing nothing for you. Absolutely nothing. It doesn't bring growth, it brings utter noise and distraction. Silences your fear, makes you think you are okay, and is literally an $830 time waster, depending on the style or model of time waster you're actually going to get. Maybe up to $1,200, that's up to you. Or maybe you can get a good book or buy books which are way cheaper but have everlasting knowledge that can help you actually advance and grow in your life. But no, we're just going to sit here and settle. I felt that one. Just going to sit here and settle. Sit behind our phones, pretend to look cool, pretend to look busy, buy into the people pleasing component that social media brings, and just lead distracted lives where we can't even hold the conversation without switching topics in 2 minutes. Can't have a conversation in person because for some reason, in person communication, actually looking at a human in real life has become scary and don't even know what kind of questions to ask people because there is a core value rooted in self, in me, in I, and not us or we, where our conversations are no longer two-way streets and turn into the I or me mentality, where it's about my likes, my desires, my wants, don't really care about yours, but just mine, and oh, hey, do you want to hang out? Like, what? This is where we're going? I didn't sign up for this. How about instead of going in and thinking about all about me, we look out. We look outwards and make it less about ourselves and more about others. More about genuinely and purely helping others, where it's not transactional. Actually and genuinely wanting to get to know each other and not for self, but for compassion and for genuine companionship. I just don't understand. We are lost, and it's painful to say this. Once again, how are these devices helping you? How? Maybe you can put your phone in front of you on a date and let it do all the talking instead of you putting, I don't know, active effort into actually asking the person about themselves and not just ramble about your own life. Before you know it, people will be marrying their phones. And how romantic is that? A $1,200 piece of junk that will amount to nothing in the end. It will just fall away. We spend more time worrying about when the next iPhone will come out, having the most recent technological devices, and chasing after all of these things rather than our own growth. It's a cop out. And we're succumbing to that. Instead of taking the time to focus on next steps, our goals that are personal, and carefully mapping the steps out of knowing that we might pivot from time to time, and it's the unknown, we flee towards the carrots or chasing those things of this world that are easy and known and too comfortable. Focus on material that doesn't have worth instead of having one vision, looking straight ahead and focusing on that vision, which is your path and your future. But the more you let into your life, the more distractions you will have, and the less simpler life will be. So just be mindful. Or we can put TV on and watch it for as long as we both shall live. Maybe we can buy endless streaming apps, fill our minds with more problems and man-made fears that we can even think of. It's all scripted, but we still need to watch these fear-based shows because we need to escape our lives. If you are escaping your life, then isn't that the problem? Isn't that telling you, hey, I'm lost? Hey, I'm unsatisfied? Hey, I'm having a hard time? That inner voice that tells you something is off is not telling you something just for the sake of it. There's a valid reason as to why you feel lost, sad, and unfulfilled. It's the time you shut off the noise, aka the TV, the phone, and what others are telling you about you and yourself, and tune into what's going on in here. It's time you enter in solitude, search deep within, and figure out how you can emerge better than before. I am telling you, all of these streaming apps and other pieces of technology are not going to help you get there. But Jen, I had a long day. So we all have those days. But filling your mind up with mindless fogginess that comes out of this won't fulfill you and won't wake you up from the inside. Instead, it will do just the opposite. It will keep you asleep. This tool that you think will help you get out of that funk will put you right back in it, and you will be enslaved to it. It will keep you asleep, and not physically, but spiritually. And before you know it, that veil of fog will cover your eyes so deep that you won't be able to see straight. I'm telling you, if you don't cut it out and make a clean and fresh start, it's going to continue to plague your mind, and you can say bye to productivity for your goals and what you're trying to achieve, and it will have you thinking you can just start on your goal tomorrow. But what happens when tomorrow comes and you don't start? And you'll just say, oh, I'll start tomorrow. I'll start it on Monday. I'm too busy. So you're giving power to that thought and not shutting it down and letting it come in the next day and sneakily enter in your mind, having you think that you're busy because deep down you feel you don't have enough potential, that you don't have your life together, where you're spending time comparing yourself to others and the excuse of, I'm too busy. What are you busy doing exactly? What are you actually doing? Are you busy looking at social media, what others are doing, and therefore are too busy to focus on your goals, attain them, and take those small incremental steps to get there? Where you act out in faith and strive toward your goals? Or are you spending hours looking at your phone and watching a TV show? And maybe even doing both at the same time? I'm just confused. It's just excuse after excuse, and that dangerous cycle needs to be broken. And I'm not judging because I was there, but I don't want you to keep going on this path. We are not designed to be looking at this. We are not robots. We are not drones. Look at what this country was based off of: advancement, progression, entrepreneurship, leadership, grit, determination, so much more. Well, you can say there's advancement in apps. Yeah, but at what cost? Well, this brings me entertainment. Okay, so you're entertained for 15 minutes, but then what? What was the time spent on? It made you feel good in the temporary, but anything else? Did anything else come out of it? Or are we hiding once again? I remember back in the day, I think a little water here. Hold on. Okay, we're good in the hood. I remember back in the day when I started watching, this is a long time ago, I started watching streaming services, and without realizing, I was looking to it to fill the void. Watching TV shows because of sadness, avoiding the real problem of emptiness, a void that needed to be fulfilled by something because I felt lost, out of touch, and just in the complete unknown. Where some sort of deep sadness came in, where I looked to TV shows to hide my feelings. And I watched a lot of shows like Marvel, Stranger Things, movies. But even after watching those shows, I felt even more out of it, even more lost, out of touch, and just in this weird phase where it all felt stale and had this energy where I felt trapped in this wind of gray moving around or swarming around my mind, keeping my eyes locked on TV shows that didn't deserve my time or attention, where I was just distracted by them, thinking this was the best way to fill my time. But what about my goals? What about where I needed to go? Why was I wasting my time watching shows supporting actors, actresses, networks, producers, etc., but not redirecting my focus on where I wanted to go, on my goals? Like, what was I doing? Just wasting time and thinking this was a way to go until one day, by the grace of God, thank you, God, whew, thank you for that. I cut all noise, stopped watching TV, no more networks, no more using TV as a vice to fill a void, and realizing it was time to stay focused on where I needed to go and only fill my time with things of importance. One day, and this was January 2020, this is like 2 years ago. Time is just zipping here. But I was watching Real Housewives on Bravo. And back in the day, I was a huge Real Housewives fan. Watched New Jersey, Beverly Hills. I mean, pretty much all of them. But then I had some favorites. But anyway, as I was watching, I had that same thought of emptiness and remember thinking to myself, what am I doing? Why am I sitting here watching a TV show supporting people that just gossip, that claim to be friends with each other, but are quick to judge, gossip, and criticize? I don't even gossip and don't believe in knocking others down since we are meant to raise or lift each other up and be supportive. I don't want to focus on things or watch things that don't align with me. I don't want my mind to stay focused on these things, nor do I want it to be cloudy, which is how it felt when I watched it. Like my brain had this headache. It felt tense and I just had enough. I remember during this time, and thank you God for this. Oh, the right book. I read a book called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, where the author talks about how there is noise with gossiping, and my mind just felt noisy and where I couldn't think or see clearly, which is why it is very important with what you watch, listen to, and read because it does have an impact on your mind in the present and in the future. Now, to quote a song called Heroes by one of my favorite bands called The Midnight, and Tyler Lara literally sings, "Another year under the spell. It's hard to tell because you wear it so well. Are we just too easily pleased? Here with our pundits and sages, witty, pretty, beepy, and almost getting by, almost getting by." And it's kind of how I felt during that time, where I felt like I was under the spell, didn't even realize it. That I was just in circles looking for things to fill my time, like TV and shows that just don't really amount to really anything. So that's kind of how I felt, but now I completely shut all of it out. No more TV, nothing, and it's fantastic. But you know what? If you have time, look up the Midnight Heroes. That's a song. It's off of their albums, Heroes. I gotta promote them. They're fantastic. One of my favorites. But I'm gonna calm down and get back to the podcast. Okay? Okay. When we rely on social media for connection, we are we are hiding we are hiding behind technology, and there is a lack of true, authentic communication. I don't know about you, but I can't pick up on how someone is feeling through an Instagram message. The only way to know is by having a human face to face interaction with the person, actually talk to them in person. That's how you're truly going to connect. By meeting and engaging in social interaction in person, that's how you're going to get better at having conversations with someone else and not solely focusing on yourself, but the other person and picking up on their emotion, their mannerisms, and their tone of voice. It's more genuine and authentic when you have a conversation face to face where you can see the expressions on their face. hear the tone of the voice, and when you make them laugh, you smile on the inside. These are the small things that are taken for granted and are underestimated, but so important when communicating face to face. Hiding behind the phone or technology creates a lot of fear because you think you're constantly being social, but there's a barrier there. The phone is for convenience and communication, but isn't the primary source of engagement with a person. Texting, get it. Phone call, FaceTime, totally understand. But anything outside of that, I can't really wrap my mind around. Something else to think about is dating and technology and how, if not careful, technology can interfere in that realm. It's one thing if you and your partner can maybe watch a certain show together as a way of bonding, but staying home watching endless TV thinking you are spending quality time with each other when there's little to no engagement, no social interaction, it's just all eyes on TV, and then okay, good night, where there's no depth, no, hey, how was your day? I mean, is that really a life? Is that really a healthy relationship when where there's little to no communication? How about you two as a couple step out of the house from time to time to go on a date or cook at home with no TV on in the background, where there is a conversation and just being in the moment together? It's not that complicated. It's quite simple, actually. I remember one time I was out to dinner, it's about a year and a half ago, and I saw this married couple, and it seems they were married for quite some time. As I was looking around and taking in the scenery of the restaurant, I noticed both husband and wife taking out their phones and just looking at them, just literally looking at their phones. Like, are you really that bored? Literally, it's all I saw until their food arrived. Now, I'm not a creep, I just notice things, but this scenario where their phones have become part of the relationship has become way, way too normalized from my understanding. No judgment. It just, die. There needs to be a wake up call. If you're going to look at your phone for the entirety of dinner, then why just not be home? While you're looking at your phone and being in the presence of a loved one, you may think you are keeping them company, but you're not. Your attentions are placed somewhere else. That's not quality time. Quality time is when you and the other person are spending time with each other, in silence with no distractions, going on a date and so forth. But when did the phone enter the dating scene? And who let you pull up a chair at the table and join in, little Miss Phone or Mr. Phone? Now, I know it may sound repetitive, but it's because this point really needs to be made. Also, when you're out on a date and have your phone out, who are you doing a disservice towards? Your partner or your phone? Your partner. And what are you honoring? Your phone. I'm not saying you can't look at your phone. However, there's a time and a place for it. And it's about having self awareness and self control. And once again, how I mentioned episode 9 regarding you are where your heart is, that every action has a consequence. The smartphone has a way of being the third wheel when going out on a date. I just, even on the table, why are you there? Who invited you? And since when are you dating your phone? Why is it in your pocket or in your purse? Why is it planted right in front of your face? Like what? Like what? This does not compute with me. And my mind can even try to understand that because it doesn't make sense. You were on a date with a person, out with your family, spending quality time, but your phone is out, not away from you, and you're more engaged in the phone than you are in the person sitting right in front of you? Excuse me? Think about this. How often will you share this moment alone with this person versus how many moments will you have with your phone? Be honest and truthfully answer that question. What's really at stake? Your relationship or your phone? What are you avoiding if you're in the presence of someone but prioritize your phone over them? You may think you're bonding, but you're not. Or are you really that bored? How about look at someone in the eye, engage, have a conversation? The phone doesn't need to be there. It can't even laugh, and if it speaks, it's because a robot named Siri is talking, and that's about it. Next, and I'm on fire on this one because whew, it's been bubbling up for such a long time, since 2018. Because I remember when I was at Cromer graduate school, I had a radio show for a couple of months, but I really wanted to go into having a podcast, and I wanted to talk about this. This is going to be my first topic on the show. But you know what? Timing is perfect, and thank God for that. I don't know who needs to hear this, but I really do pray that this shifts the way that you think and view things. I really do because we need it. Now, when I was a little Jen with one N, times were simpler, meaning technology existed, but I wasn't run by it. If you wanted to meet up with a friend, you would call them on a phone with a cord, well, the good old days, and you just go boop, 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 dial a number in and say, oh, hey, you want to hang out this weekend? Okay, cool. Be at your house at 4, and then we'll do something. No problem. Just simple, pure, clean fun, where there was nothing standing in the way. No doubting, questioning, and wondering. Just straight to the point, and that's it. Simple. No social media, no chats, no social media platforms, no distractions. Just simple. Just being and engaging in the moment. Childhood was simple and peaceful. Even in middle school, it was simple. And here's the deal, your life, and I'll say this again, was always important. It was important to yourself. Whoa, words. It will never stop being important. Even before social media came on board, your life was important. You just lived and marched to the beat of your own drum, not caring about what followers thought of you. You know, back in the day, that's exactly what the mindset was. You live your life and you didn't care what other people thought about you. You could just be. And you know what? Even if they take social media away, guess what? Your life is still important and you are important. So why worry? Why let the world make you doubt yourself because of a platform and how many likes you get? Why live your life chained to a device attached to a number? Chained to a thought pattern that makes you feel insecure or less than, that makes you doubt your capabilities. Because in the grand scheme of things, in the very end, and I'm going to keep bringing this in here, it won't matter. And thank God I didn't have social media when I was a kid, and I could just grow up and be. I could literally just honestly march to the beat of my own drum and just live my life. I'm not saying I'm better than anyone else. I'm not. We all grew up in different environments and at different points in our lives and are all different ages. But all I am saying is that times were simpler back then. Times felt quieter, more peaceful, where it just wasn't noisy and everything was calmer and at ease. Where you could curl up with a good book and rely on your alarm clock to wake you up and not a 6-inch by 3-inch rectangular piece of metal that sleeps next to you in bed or has a mini bed on your nightstand to wake you up, and where technology didn't take precedence in the everyday. Just simple. Simpler times where you could just be a kid and be free and not attached to anything. Now, third time, things change. That's how it happens. But the purity of a child should be kept intact. Let me explain. Children don't need to know about technology, using smartphones, tablets, etc. Kids need to be kids and need to keep that growing spark within them and for that inner child to just shine through, for their creativity to flow and touch the hearts around them, to remind adults that you don't need to grow up, that they too can channel their inner creativity and not grow up. Just like Peter Pan. Just because most people lose their spark doesn't mean you have to. The mind of a child is simple, fun, and pure. They know nothing else, and we all have that within us. That need to know more, that spark of adventure, creativity, and wonder where they can create stories, be innocent, and just shine their light. Because the light that is there as a child also follows them when they are adults, where they can channel even more. And that's what we need more of, the light. Just because the world is or adults are advancing in technology doesn't mean children have to. Think about when you were a kid and what were you doing, right? Let childhood be simple. Don't add the world to childhood. Let kids just be kids. There are times when I see parents put their kids or on phones or a tablet as a form of entertainment because parents don't want to deal with the stress or the role of as a parent. It's subconsciously another way of getting children addicted to technology and further instilling this now culture of wanting things now and keeps children hooked to technology. And if not careful, technology can be a gateway into other things where kids are getting involved with things they should not be involved in and can even enter in an environment of bullying. It's also not solving a problem if you're just handling or just handing your kid a tablet or a smartphone to keep them preoccupied because you don't want to understand why they're having the tantrum in the first place and are just avoiding the problem and not getting to the root cause. How children are raised now and at every stage of their lives makes an impact for their future and who they will become. Now, I'm not giving parenting advice, but I'm just calling it like I see it, based off of what I've seen. Kids don't need to watch TV shows every moment of the day and can spend their time socializing actually with other kids away from the screen, running around outside, reading a book, and spend time channeling their inner creativity because when kids feel like they can be creative in their own homes, it will follow them as they grow up because children will never forget how you made them feel at a young age. And remember those moments when you either supported them or didn't. And honestly, tablets, laptops don't need to be in classrooms. Just want to say that. Give them a notebook and a pen or a pencil. Teach them how to write the right way because that's where it all starts. Childhood is honestly pivotal for the future. And how kids are raised now shapes them into who they become. But a device puts a cap on creativity. And there is so much more for a child to learn, to see and do that doesn't involve a smartphone, a tablet, or a laptop. When a tablet or a phone is handed to their kids as a quick fix or a band aid, it's putting out the fire for the short term, but isn't a solution because that behavior will continue and leads to a repetitive pattern because of dopamine, that feel good hormone that keeps coming into this episode and always wanting more. Parents may think it's solving a problem, but it's actually a quick fix and just relieves parents from stress for a short term. And what happens if the problem festers or grows? What are you going to do then? Give them another hour of screen time? By relying on technology to keep kids amused, and if they're looking at their phones, iPads, or computers all day, are they actually socializing face to face or being brainwashed into thinking they are? And remember, their childhood is a foundation to who they become as adults, and it may pass down to future generations. It all starts here. Because what it's also teaching that if a kid does not have their device with them when they want it or it is taken away, it causes problems and more tantrums to arise, and then they become spoiled, ungrateful, and there are no boundaries. And that will actually bleed into their adulthood. I mean, what happened to good old fashioned Monopoly, right? The game boards, a good book or a coloring book, right? Like those are fun. What? Don't give me that look. You're not excited? All right, well, you can't win them all. All right, anyway, moving on. So, what's keeping people addicted to their phones? Now, I mentioned this word kind of scattered throughout the episode. Any takers? I have more gold star packs in the back. Yes, dopamine. Thank you. Thank you. You get all the gold stars for you and maybe a cupcake. I'll think about it. I'll think about it. But before we bring dopamine into the equation, let's focus on our adrenal glands. Oh, this is fun. Which are located right on top of both of our kidneys. The hypothalamus, we're not done yet, which is located in the lower middle part of your brain, and the pituitary gland that sits right underneath it. Adrenal glands create cortisol, which helps us to manage stress and stressful situations that may arise. But sometimes we have an issue with how we can decipher what is an emergency versus what isn't. For example, when we are constantly bombarded by messages, emails, the news, and so forth, how do we know what to react to? How do we decipher what's a priority and how can we figure out the path forward without distraction, without noise? When has there been a positive news story about the good things taking place in this world? Why are we glued and attached to the fear? Why do we feed off of their negativity? All it does is create a worry, fear, and stress, especially from things that are not in our control. And this type of stress isn't a good thing. Let me explain. According to Hopkins Medicine, excess cortisol production can occur, and I'm quoting from the site. I'm not a doctor here. I'm just, Jersey Jenny over here. Excess cortisol production can occur from nodules in the adrenal gland or excess production of ACTH, which is known as the adrenocorticotropin hormone, from a tumor in the pituitary gland or other source. Adrenocorticotropin hormone, or ACTH, stimulates the adrenal glands to make and release cortisol hormones into the blood. And according to this site, cortisol is released during times of stress to help your body get an energy boost and better at handling an emergency situation. Cortisol secretes stress hormones to handle stressful situations so we can be better prepared in handling them and not react. It can come from a place of taking action and having the energy and clarity to problem solve in a healthy manner, and not from a place where we are reactionary and our minds are foggy. But let's dive in. Water, so good. WebMD states that the hypothalamus, and I quote, which runs your hormone system in order to keep your body in balance, is located in the lower middle part of your brain, which then communicates with the pituitary gland that sits right underneath the hypothalamus. And these two, they work together to help your thyroid, your endocrine system, your adrenal glands, and etc. The hypothalamus creates hormones which are sent to the anterior part of the pituitary gland, which sits right in front of the pituitary gland. The anterior pituitary is in charge of releasing hormones that the hypothalamus creates. So there's a whole conversation going on here. An example of this hormone is called the CRH, or corticotropin releasing hormone, which makes your anterior pituitary send adrenocorticotropic hormones to your adrenal glands, which, as I mentioned above, the adrenocorticotropic hormone is in charge of releasing cortisol into your system and keeping your stress levels in check so you can actively manage or handle those tough situations that are actually emergencies. Now, the hypothalamus also creates, as you mentioned, young man, dopamine, which we will call the feel good hormone, which affects your mood, motivation, and boosts your energy so you're motivated to do things and get things done. According to Dennis Budemer, who is a life and wellness coach at Piedmont Healthcare, and he states online that when we check our phones, our brains release a small amount of dopamine. He then mentions dopamine motivates us to take action, and each time we hear a notification, we check our device. The problem is this dopamine boost is temporary and leads to a letdown. Our brains want more dopamine, which triggers the habit of checking our phones constantly throughout the day. As we mentioned before, the hypothalamus pumps in more dopamine until its small amount wears off, which tells us if we are constantly being let down, then why are we going back to the source that makes us feel that way? And it's because we don't know, right? We don't know what's going on in here. Why not pour ourselves in activities that actually wake us up so we desire to do them more and have peace and clarity instead of relying on the amount of notifications we get? Where we can live a fulfilled life and not the other way around. Live a life of purpose and meaning and not look for the gratification from others, but go deep within, since that will tell you all you need to know. For example, do more activities that you're fully immersed in. and where your mind isn't thinking about your phone. These activities can include cooking, baking, since you can channel all of your six senses, which are touch, see, hear, smell, taste, and your intuition. You can create new dishes, maybe you play sports with your friends, creating artwork if you're more hands on, writing. Writing is fun. Working on a business idea that you had for years and now can finally work on it. Maybe go exploring and really do things that just keep you engaged where you can live a life of freedom and fulfillment and where you naturally feel lifted and have that energy. Have that desire to do things that make you feel that you are living a life worthwhile. Don't worry about what's happening in the world around you. Don't worry about not answering a text right away or an email within 5 minutes. You will get to it when you can get to it. And your mental peace and clarity are far more precious and valuable than anything. It's about high time you know that too. Mental health is huge. We're good. Mental health is a driver of our thoughts and steers our direction. And if we don't sit in silence, sit in peace, and just be, we won't have clarity. If we are constantly surrounding ourselves with noise coming from our phones and all forms of technology, there is no peace. There is constant bombardment, stress, and not only in our minds, but our physical bodies as well. Now, as I mentioned in the last episode, I demonstrated with the Venn diagram that the mind or the mental thoughts connects to the emotional realm, which connects to the physical side, which all stem from the heart. So if we can get our minds clear, then it affects both the emotional, right? So our minds are clear, it connects both the emotional and the physical components, which is sometimes could be caused by a troubled heart because we are not in peace and not focusing on our paths and moving toward a direction that we know our heart wants to go. So we look to other things to fill that void and it actually becomes a vicious cycle unless we end it. So it's so important to have clarity so you can think clearly, you feel with clarity, and you act with clarity, and you can just move in that direction. If we don't put a stop to things, we're always going to think that we are chasing something, or as mentioned before, chasing the carrot that in the moment we think will satisfy us. However, we are not satisfied because, as we mentioned before, this day and age is all about instant gratification, which links to dopamine or the feel good hormone. We are seeking more and more, and if we are not satisfied, then it will be a never ending chase where we are focusing on the wrong things that won't fulfill us. We're not going after the right things. We're going after the things that are just quick and easy because of immediate gratification. And what are we doing here? We're going in circles and not fulfilling our purpose. And those goals that you want to work on, whatever it may be, well, they fall to the wayside because of that instant gratification piece and need to have something right away because it will only make you feel good in the moment, or aka dopamine. And having something right away, as I mentioned before, is not always the right thing that is for you. Just a thought. For example, and I'm bringing the gym into this because it's a place of importance. For example, let's say you want to lose weight and look a certain way, so you start going to the gym, and after a week, you stop because you don't see the desired results. Well, why did you stop? Because even though you desire to lose weight, you stopped because of instant gratification and social media making you think that you could look a certain way within days. Number one, you are not going to lose the desired weight within a week, so keep working at your goals. Number two, social media can make you think that after 1 week you will look a certain way. Look, the gym is not easy. And as we mentioned before, all good things take time, and all good things come to those who wait. So be patient. Remember in the second episode called The Rules of Fitness, when building strength, it's all about those small, and I love it, those small incremental steps to arrive at your next goal until it's accomplished and can move on to the next step. And it keeps moving from there, where you continue to feel even more accomplished and motivated. And before you know it, the weight is gone. And I'll tell you a story here. So when oof, when I became very serious about the gym, I can't personally, I don't think really anybody can rush from one weight into the next weight. You just kind of can't. So let's say if I'm benching at 60 pounds and I'm going for 4 sets of 10 reps, and every set I'm doing is 10, every set I'm doing is 10 reps for 4 sets. I can't jump from 60 to a 90 from one set to another. So what I do, and I love it, I start off with a 1 set, 60 pounds. I do my 10 reps. And when I personally feel, okay, wow, I can do 12 with 60, then the next set, I'll add on maybe about 2.5 pounds on each side. So now we're going to 65 pounds total. I do that 1 set. If I feel, okay, I could do 12, this is getting a little bit lighter, a little bit easier, then I slowly add on more. But I add on small incremental weights because it helps me feel like, I accomplished this one small step and then this step and this step. And before you know it, I can bench 90 pounds, I can bench 100 pounds. And it takes time, but it's applied to really almost anything that you do in life. The gym is just that sole kind of like role model or example that's really slow and steady wins the race, that you cannot rush anything. You want to lose weight, you're going to the gym, small steps, tweak your diet. Tweak your diet. Instead of having, I don't know, sugary cereal in the morning, have oatmeal, right? Instead of having, I'm thinking here, certain proteins or certain meats that are more fatty, eat a lean protein, eat leaner vegetables, eat leaner fruits. Look at the labels on really everything that you eat, because that will tell you what is in your food. It's so important to eat clean, but it's those small incremental steps, those small substitutions that really do add a lot, that weigh a lot more than you rushing into the gym and losing 30 pounds in a week. That's just not going to happen. And I remember because back in 2017, I literally joined LA Fitness. At that time, I had a trainer, but I didn't want to put the work in because I wasn't giving myself patience and time. And I literally thought that within a week, the weight would fall off. Like, I had this immediate gratification mindset at that time in my life. And I'm so grateful that it's no longer there, that it's disappearing, that it's so rewarding when you put that time and energy into what it is that you're doing at the gym and things that in your life, because you get to look back and say, wow, I did that. I lost that weight, or I accomplished that goal, or I started that business plan, or whatever I wrote that book. Like, all these different things that you want to focus on and do, when you start it and start working on it in small incremental steps, it's like, oh my gosh, I just did that. It's incredible. But you know what you do? You don't rest on your laurels. You keep going. You can stop and enjoy it in the moment, but don't stop there. You have to keep going. So I just kind of wanted to kind of give you that little bit of an insight there, that it all takes time, and the beauty really is in that time. The transformation is beautiful. It's glorious when you get on the other side of it, but you have to just keep going and not give up. No matter what is that you're trying to achieve in your life, you can overcome. You can. Because if I can do it, you can do it too. I wholeheartedly believe in anybody that is watching or listening to this episode. You just have to just do it. And if Nike can, well, so can you. Okay? Okay. Whew. I was ramped up. I'm just rooting for you. All right? What I'm trying to say is that it's better to work hard for what you want, right? And work for those goals and live a life in delayed gratification, where life is simpler, right? It's really filled with purity and clarity, where we can focus on the road in front of us. Our paths, our steps are clearer, just like the gym. I know 60 pounds, or I can push for 12. Let's do 65. Now I have a clear vision of the next step, the next step, the next step, not just with what I'm benching, but literally doing the leg press. I can go the next step, the next weight, the next weight, the next weight, add on more and more and more. And before you know it, the weight will drop off and you're gonna get to where you want to be. It's literally incredible. But you're gonna have a clear vision of what is next. And also it's more delayed gratification versus that instant gratification piece where we are running around, right, acting like the world is going to end if we don't get what we want in this very moment, and then we give up. You know what I mean, Jelly Bean? So my advice is rest your mind, give it a break, for it doesn't always need to be thinking and doing. When our body continuously feels attacked, we don't know how to handle stress in stressful situations, which causes our bodies to go into fight or flight mode. And the adrenal medulla, which is the inner part of the adrenal gland, controls those hormones that cause us to go into fight or flight mode. So if these are not moderated, we are in fight or flight mode, and those hormones are called epinephrine or adrenaline. And how do we say this one? Norepinephrine, got it, or noradrenaline. According to an article called Adrenal Glands by johnshopkinsmedicine.org, they play a big role in, and I quote, helping maintain blood pressure and increasing it in response to stress, amongst other functions. These hormones tend to be activated by physical and emotionally stressful situations when your body needs additional resources and energy to endure unusual strain. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Because, according to an article online called Seven Reasons to Break Your Smartphone Addiction by Piedmont Healthcare, and I quote, both the content on your phone and the act of checking it frequently can trigger a stress response, which releases cortisol into the body, says Dennis Budimir, who is a life and wellness coach at Thomas F. Chapman Family Cancer Wellness at Piedmont, located in Atlanta, Georgia. He also states too much cortisol can lead to anxiety and eventually chronic disease. He also goes on to mention when we check our phones, our brains release a small amount of dopamine. Budimer states that dopamine motivates us to take action, and each time we hear a notification, we check our device. The problem is that this dopamine boost is temporary and leads to a letdown. Our brains want more dopamine, which triggers the habit of checking our phones constantly throughout the day. So getting these constant pings all day leads us to stress, and before we know it, we're running on all cylinders, feeling overwhelmed, stressed out, unaccomplished, and even more lost than ever before. There is no clarity and our minds are foggy. Our thoughts are running and we can't even pick one to focus on, all because of an addiction, and an instant need to respond, reply, and so forth. What if I were to tell you that life is way better and clearer when you're not operating under the veil of technological rain, which leads to darkness and the center of self? Since when do we let technology overpower our thoughts, our mindsets, and dictate and control our days? It doesn't add up. And it's sad to see a world so lost in this addiction where it's a distraction. I guarantee it's so interesting because it pulls you right into a realm of seeking self, numbness, insecurity, and comparing yourself to others. And I guarantee that this phone doesn't matter. Whatever's happening in people's lives on these platforms doesn't matter. And what they're doing doesn't matter because you're missing your life and just watching it go by, one scroll, one TV show at a time. We really need to get off of this thing and see there's so much more to life than this 4-inch or 5-inch, whatever inch screen. How much deeper do we need to go before we are so stuck that it becomes one with us? But just as I shared my story earlier with technology, I believe people can change if they just believe they can. And for them to know that there's light in the change, there's light in the transformation, there's light that comes from breaking free. No more wasting time. No more letting our potential be pushed down until it is forgotten about because of technology. No more wasting time on things of this world that don't matter. No more taking the easy way out and feeling sad for ourselves. This is coming from a place of purity, but you are standing in your own way. And let me explain. No one is making you look at this device except yourself. No one is telling you to pick it up, and you have the power of self control, but just have to use it. Self control is a form of discipline which has been given to you as a birthright or an inheritance and needs to be tuned into. From there, you can focus on things of importance, what is true necessity, and truly live a life of freedom. In terms of self control, we don't need to respond right away, and not every response needs a response in that instant. In life, we are busy. We're busy at our jobs, focusing on goals, working towards something, spending time with our family and our friends, loved ones, at the gym, in school, etc., where the phone doesn't really serve a purpose, where it's not the priority or main focus of your day. Without so much technology, you live a life of solitude and peace where not a lot is infiltrating your system, meaning your eyes, your ears, and your mind. Your mind is not clouding up with noise. You have more awareness, are mindful, more alert of your surroundings and where you're going, are in more control of your day, and are not being controlled by your phone. There is more focus, and if it's challenging in the beginning, I completely understand. When I started breaking free from technology, I placed my phone in another room. And what you can do is place your phone in another room where you don't have it near you when you wake up and or actually when you go to bed. And don't bring it into your room with you. Don't bring your phone into the room with you either, because the constant scrolling, before you know it's 1 o'clock in the morning. Something else you could do is use the do not disturb option on your phone to focus on what you were doing. They have this option for a reason. My advice, use it. It helped me to stay focused, and now I don't even have to use it anymore. Social media, gone, deactivated. I am telling you, your thoughts will be more organized, clear, and you will have more energy. You'll feel less frazzled, more at ease, more focused, and in control of where you're going and not distracted, because once you get focused and receive a text, you may think you have a second to check your phone, look at the message, and respond. But then it leads to looking at social media, and before you know it, you are scrolling again. It can be dangerous and sucks you in faster than you think, because we don't want that spike of dopamine to kick in more. Remember the whole dopamine talk we just had? Well, there starts the cycle. So, my advice are to use those focus options on your phone, turn it upside down, leave it into another room. You can also silence notifications. Choose the option in your settings to not allow notifications pop in from Instagram, social media, Facebook, etc., and remove those apps from your phone. That helped me a lot, and it's gotten to the point where actually I forgot about and even had them, because checking these apps are not a priority. When responding to texts and or emails, it can wait. Everything can wait, and there is nothing like the stillness of your mind where you can hear your own thoughts with clarity. What peace does that bring to the heart? Remember, this phone, I don't want to look at it right now, is not your friend. It's a piece of technology, and people treat it as if it's food and they need it to function. As mentioned, it causes you to lose focus on what's it causes you to lose. I need some water. A little reboot here. Oh, recharging. Here we go. As mentioned, it causes you to lose focus on what's important. And as Robin Sharma states, so good on page 172 in the 5 a.m. Club, playing small with your promise demotes our world, because the planet becomes a poorer place without your greatness in it. Once again, playing small with your promise demotes our world, because the planet becomes a poorer place without your greatness in it. I hope that quote sparks your heart, sheds a little bit of light, and gives you the green light to pursue your goals and live victoriously. Now, let's self reflect here. And I want you to imagine. Now, as you're listening, pause for a couple minutes, drink some water, have some tea, maybe coffee if you want. I don't know. Whatever you want to do, have a little snack. But I want you to imagine something here. Okay, we're good. Imagine you are 80 years old and looking back on your life and thinking about what happened. Now, maybe you are seeing yourself in a chair, holding up a cup of coffee, a tea, or a cookie. I don't know. Now, if you want my advice, let me tell you all about it here, okay? Okay. I personally think the Walker cookie, so good. It's a shortbread cookie. It's so good. Or you know what you can do? You have a bocce chocolate divine or a classic chocolate chip cookie. You can't go wrong with those. Or like a French pastry, like a croissant or pastelitos. Those are so good. They literally have them with the guava and cream cheese. Oh my gosh, divine. Or you know what? Maybe a slice of cheesecake, from the Golden Girls. Good old fashioned New York cheesecake. That would be so good. What? You get to the point already? Yes, Judge Jen, I'm working on it. When is your vacation? Like, when are you? You can just, it's okay. I got this. You can go. I promise you're going to be fine. Just rushing me. So rude. Anyway, back on track. All right. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I still have plenty of time to decide which dessert I want, another 45 years, but let's center ourselves and refocus. Imagine yourself being 80 years young, right? And reminiscing about the past. Do you want to say to yourself, I am so glad I wasted all my time and money on things and situations that just didn't matter? Or do you want to look up and replay the memories and experiences of your life and say, you know what? I am so glad I pursued my goals because this step led me to this step and I persevered and thank God for it all. It's your choice. We always have a choice and different avenues to take. It's just following that path that you can't see ahead of you. But having faith in the things you can't see and knowing it will come to pass with time. Patience, focus, perseverance, and passion. If you think about the hardships you faced and walked through, what happened? You overcame them, which makes you an overcomer within itself. For a life lived victoriously is a life lived indeed. And once again, for a life lived victoriously is a life lived indeed. If you think about the hardships you faced and what you walked through, you're an overcomer. Just always think about what you walked through and how you got to where you are this day, because that's going to keep driving you forward. Which now leads us into the Note Bene section. I know. Why? What's up with the sad faces, guys? I know. It's the end. Well, kind of, but not really, because it's the end of this episode. But there are many more to come. I promise. There's one already kind of in the works, so stay tuned. But I know I'm gonna miss you too, but I'll be back. I promise. All right, now I'm gonna start crying. Guys. Okay, just bring it in. I'll cry I'll cry when I'm done recording. Okay, here we go. So this leads us into our Note Bene section. And as a reminder, this Note Bene section is a note-well portion of the episode where we summarize what we discussed during today's episode or class, so to speak. And you know what? Just call me Professor Jen. You know what? We can add her on the show. More characters. And if you get out of line, that means homework for all of you. If I see a phone on a date, you have a 10-page paper about what you just listened to in this episode. And I don't play around. Okay? Okay, I'm going to calm down. So now I know we discussed quite a bit during this episode, and I appreciate you not only listening, but your patience and support as well. Thank you. Something to remember is that when we are afraid of failure, no, you are not failing. For as in Steve Sims' book called Bluefishing states, And I will quote this on page 54. When you try and fail, the word should be discover. And it's true. Every time I make something and it doesn't work out, I discovered something new. And now I have more knowledge under my belt. And who knows? You never know when you might have to train someone on what you learned, since it will help that person you're training that what works and what doesn't work. So now they know. Focus on expanding your mind, growing, learning, and being creative. Keep that creative spark alive and don't put it out. Don't even put it out for a second for anyone or anything. Creativity is a flame that pushes forward and continues, leading you to the next step and to the next step. Just because others are settling in their lives or are complacent, or maybe your parents, family, and friends are settling for something less, doesn't mean you have to. It doesn't mean you have to join the crowd. You know, you know what you need to do, and I give you full liberty to go after your dreams and accomplish them, knowing, and as mentioned a couple of times, all good things take time. So take that first step and start. As you take one incremental step at a time, you will look back at what you accomplished, and that will drive you more to you keep pushing forward. And to a quote from page 119 of the 5 a.m. Club written by Robin Sharma, an addiction to distraction is the death of your creative production. Another quote you can write down and keep with you, just in case you want to get this book, it's on page 128 of the 5 a.m. Club. Robin Sharma quotes the infamous Albert Einstein, who states, only one who devotes himself to a cause with his whole strength and soul can be a true master. For this reason, mastery demands all of a person. Something else to remember is knowing when to use technology and how it can be used for the good, but doesn't need to be in control over your life. The amount of time you spend on your phone versus how much time you're working on your goals and progress should not tip the scale, right? So the amount of time you spend on your phone versus your goals should not be going this way, but actually vice versa, where the amount of time they spend on your goals weighs more than looking at your phone, than technology. Keep that in mind. And also that this device, I don't want to pick it up. I don't have the energy. Is not your friend. It really isn't. Never has been and never will be. We also don't need to be connected 24/7 and wired and constantly on the go. It leads to anxiety, people pleasing, fear, where when there is an abundance of it, it can cause that spike in cortisol where we don't know what is an emergency to respond to because we treat every notification as something we must get to or something is wrong, and where every message adds stress. Technology and social media leads to feeling unsatisfied with ourselves, where we feel lost, seek validation, and that want for more, more, more. Where every notification causes a spike in dopamine, and once it wears off, you seek more of that to feel good. But be cautious because it leads to greed, a lack of self control, jealousy, anger, and a comparative culture, which causes us to think only about ourselves, where it's the me, I, and where there is a lack of we and us. We don't need to know what is going on in other people's backyards. We don't need to post to feel special, cool, or whatever the kids are calling it these days, or to feel important. Remember, before social media existed, your life has always been important and always will be. All that matters is that you feel that your life is important. That's what matters, not what the world thinks. Not based off of societal pressures, rules, and these imaginary laws. The world can share as many posts about themselves until it's blue in the face, but doesn't mean they are content with themselves. It doesn't mean this person has inner peace. It doesn't mean this person is perfect. And be careful with that, since social media can lead to idolatry too, and that's a big no-no. These platforms create brain fog, and it's unhealthy mentally, physically, and emotionally, and won't bring you peace of mind. In fact, it further takes you away from your present and your future. And there is no judgment because I've been there. But what you can do is leave that phone in another room, turn on the do not disturb function, and if you need it for another alarm clock, you can still leave it in another room where it will actually force you to get up. By not having a phone in your room, you will be able to sleep better and it will cause you not to look at it before you go to bed or when you get up in the morning, and eventually will find yourself no longer addicted to it. And when I see you on a date, I don't want to see that phone out. I don't. No gold stars. And if you use Chat GPT, I'm going to know. And then you know what? You're going to have to write a 20-page paper on all the episodes that I talked about. Yeah, good luck. It's important to know, and I'm not kidding, it's important to know that when you're feeling off or there's a void in your heart, to understand what it is. Don't drown it out or fill it with distraction. TV, endless noise, comparing yourself to others on social media, spending time with people that won't help you grow. Instead, understand what's going on and take the plunge. Enter in the next step. We all have a purpose in life. We all have potential, and you have potential, so don't settle and don't cave in. Something also to remember is that this phone is not your best friend. It's not a part of the date, nor is it a part of a conversation. Just like TV and streaming devices, it's a distraction where die means two, and you have two visions or two things going on where you're not focusing on one thing. So if your mind is set on having a conversation with someone while you're looking at your phone, are you actually engaged in the discussion? The answer is no. We are naturally social beings, too, and relying on this device to talk to someone isn't socializing. It's another form of escape where we are running from something, might feel insecure, or not have a lot of confidence. My advice, be bold. Talk to the person in person. How did you talk to people before we had a cell phone? In person. Now, back when they wrote the Declaration of Independence in 1776, John Adams wasn't texting Benjamin Franklin asking what he thought needed to be added. They all sat around and had a discussion. That's where socializing takes place. That's where freedom is, not this device. They weren't gathered around the table with candlelight, scrolling through Instagram. They had a quill and paper, and it's something important. They added value. So remember, you can add value too. We all can, and we all will. But this device is not, this right here is not your sidekick. And remember that exercise where we imagine ourselves in our 80s, right? Being 80 years young and envisioned how our lives want to go? I highly recommend you doing that since that will help you kind of work backwards and think about a life that you want to lead. Not leave, well, we all leave one time, but that you want to lead a life fulfilled where you are glad you don't settle, that you didn't settle at all, and didn't let time waste away because you took the easy way out. No one has time to waste time. Stay cautious and watch your time and use it effectively. Something to note is the importance of not rushing into anything in life and to take your time. It all boils down to taking action from the right heart and where you can think clearly. If you operate under the microwave mindset, the umbrella of want and immediate gratification, then you won't be satisfied and it will be a cycle of always wanting. There is that word, want. Always wanting more, where everything is in a rush. And if something doesn't happen immediately or on your time, you feel that the world is going to end and feel everything needs to be in your control. And if it's not in your control, then there is something wrong. But in reality, nothing is wrong. It's all about living a life of patience, obedience, and knowing that not everything will happen as you want it. And it's not on your time, but how the man upstairs wants it. And knowing that brings peace within itself. We all need to let go of those reins of control over our lives. Let him have them and operate under his wing where there is peace, patience, light, and truth. That's where the peace is. Knowing that everything works out for the greater good and how it has nothing to do with you. It's just a thought. That's really all you need. And that's that the right things, right? The right things will be added to you and not things that are there just because there's a lack of self-control, pressure, and this desire to want everything in an instant. Slow and steady always wins the race. Remember, everyone has their own timeline, so if God is not in a rush, then why are you? And remember, you are an overcomer. And if you ever feel lost, you can always get back on track with line 105 from Psalm 119 in the Bible, which states, "Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path." Thank you. Hallelujah. We believe in you, as in Paul's letter to the Corinthians states in 2 Corinthians verse 13, line 11 of the Bible, "Finally, brothers and sisters, rejoice. Strive for full restoration, encourage one another, be of one mind, live in peace. And the God of love and peace will be with you." Until next time on Gen Talks podcast, got the name there, where we talk about leading with your heart. If you would like this episode, please feel free to like, you can comment, share, and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. Sending all peace, light, and love until next time. Take care. Bye.